Hello everyone, my name is Taylor.
And I'm Kelly.
And we are the co-hosts of Jumping Bomb Audio, the podcast all about Joshi Pro Wrestling here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network. Every other Monday, we are with you talking about the biggest news in Joshi, along with show reviews, previews, and much, much more.
So if you're new to Joshi or you've been a longtime fan, this is the show for you. We've got something for everyone here. So check us out, Jumping Bomb Audio.
Hola, hola, my name is Ricardo. I am the host of the Lucha Jovers podcast here in the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network. We are a Spanish-speaking show dedicated to discussing and analyzing pro wrestling from all across the world. From AEW to CMLL, we talk about American wrestling, Japanese wrestling, and of course, Lucha Libre. If something big happened in the pro wrestling world, we will talk about it. So if you know Spanish or have a friend that knows Spanish or want to practice your Lucha Libre pronunciations, go listen to the Lucha Jovers podcast right here in the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network. Nos vemos por ahí.
This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
What do you guys want to talk about?
You are listening to the Flagship Podcast with your hosts, Joe Lanza.
What has being annoying stopped you ever?
That's an excellent point. Right. An excellent point. That's part of the charm.
Rich Crage.
Corey Graves screaming, perfectly legal, Cole. You can do anything you want in tribal combat. It's perfectly legal. While Paul Heyman is just yelling, tribal combat, tribal combat, tribal combat, tribal combat, tribal combat. I'm like, God damn it. Fuck all of you. Fuck this.
And we are live on the Flagship Podcast. I am Rich. He is Joe. Joe, what's happening? How are you?
How are you?
I'm good. You got ahead of the game there. You're trying to ask me how I was before I asked you how you were. I don't like it.
Yes.
I don't like it. I'm fine.
You give the empty answer.
I'm fine. Why? Why do you ask?
Yeah.
Do I appear not fine? Is there a reason why you're asking? Are you concerned or no? Is this?
I don't know. Something wrong with you?
No, I'm fine, I think.
No?
I don't know. I'm sure there is. I mean, I watch wrestling, so there's obviously something wrong with me, but I devote most of my free time to professional wrestling. So, yeah, clearly I have a lot wrong with me. And then I devote even more of that free time to talking about it. But other than that, no, I'm fine. I'm good.
It's always good to insult every person listening.
Oh, they know.
As soon as you start the show.
No, I'm not. I'm insulting me.
Yeah, but everybody listening.
I'm sure I'm insulting them. Yes, but I'm mostly insulting me. It's called I'm self-deprecating here, Joe. But you're right. I am also telling them too that they know they're listening to us live. NFL season started. We got people listening to us. You know what I mean? Like you got Ring of Honor, you got Impact, and you got the NFL, and there's these people are listening to us live. So you know what? They know.
Are you excited about your Chicago Bears this upcoming season?
Absolutely ecstatic about my Chicago Bears, yes, and all the great players they have. Justin Fields
on the Chicago Bears.
Those other guys that they have, yeah.
How many
current Bears could
Bears? How many Bears do you think you can name on the 53-man opening day roster?
Well, one of them I just saw appearing for the Detroit Lions, so not that guy anymore. When they said David Montgomery, I went, oh, all right, well, he's not a Bear anymore. Okay. Didn't know that. Is that new? Is that last year? Is that this year? I don't know when he's not been a Bear, but there you go. I know Khalil Mack is no longer a Bear either, so I'm at Justin Fields.
That's one.
Richard Dent. I'm out. I got nobody.
Richard Dent.
It's not still there.
That man.
That still around?
Retired before you were born.
He did. No. Did he?
That might not be true.
No, it's not long after. Not long after. But
so you named Richard Dent, David Montgomery, Khalil Mack, and Justin Fields.
Well, give me another second here. Let's see. Trying to go down the position chart as if I know who any of these I'm like, all right, let me focus just on the wide receivers. I got nothing here. I don't know anything about the Bears. I don't know. No, I can't even. I don't even want to go. I don't even want to Google it because then it's going to think that I'm a Bears fan and send me a bunch of Bears. I have no idea. No earthly idea.
You don't even want your algorithm to.
I don't even want to get sent Bears news. No time. No time for the fucking Chicago Bears in my life. I'm good.
Is there a lot of buzz around town for Justin Fields?
So I've taken on the role as like guy that people know doesn't watch the NFL anymore, so they don't really even talk to me about it. You know what I mean? So I don't even know if there's buzz around. I feel like there is. I feel like there is a little bit of a buzz because they I want to say they make a big trade in the offseason.
If I fly into Chicago tomorrow, let's say a Friday, and I put on the local sports talk, what will be the lead topic on drive time?
The Bears for sure. Well, you got the Cubs. The Cubs are surging, as I'm sure you all know as a Reds fan that the Cubs are surging. It might start with the Cubs, but I think it would very quickly go to the Bears. I think there's cautious optimism about the Bears this year, and there always is, and that's why I stopped being a Bears fan because it's like they're probably going to suck, right? And everyone's like, I don't know, I got this guy, and then they would always suck, and I was like, why do people like this team? And then I just stopped watching them. In like the 90s, I decided I was done with it. Seeing my dad and everybody get upset about the Bears over and over. We got this Curtis Enos guy. This is going to turn things around. Oh, I'm sure. And then it never. And then time and time again, it never happened. It never happened. Never happened. I was like, this team is stupid. I don't care. They won a Super Bowl before I was born. I don't give a shit.
You're the definition of a fair weather fan.
I'm not I'm not fair weather because I'm never come back. I don't give a shit. They went to the Super Bowl. I didn't care. I do not. If they got good, I wouldn't care. I'm not even a fair weather fan. I have no emotional attachment whatsoever to the Bears. Never did.
They lost you forever.
They lost me forever. Yeah, I don't care. Don't watch them. Don't bother with it. Don't even engage in conversations about it. I have no time for them. No problem.
You don't see a Bears highlight of a big play and get those old feelings.
No, I never had those feelings. It's weird because like growing up, and it's probably a byproduct of the era when I grew up, and a lot of people might know this too. And we've been talking about cracking open a cold one for the NFL season. There you go, Joe. What do you got? A Coke C? Did you go cherry Coke C this time or what?
You got a camera in my house or some shit?
Is that a cherry Coke C?
It's a cherry vanilla Coke.
Oh, see, I knew you'd celebrate though. This is a big day for you. That's why you're celebrating in style. Like, some men crack open their favorite, alcoholic beverage, and and you
to show you how big of a fan I am. I was about 5 minutes late getting on to to our little whatever you call it, our gimmick here, as you may have noticed, because I was yelling and screaming at my TV because I opened up the Prime Video looking for this game, and then I realized it was on NBC. So that's how big of a fan I am. I'm like, why? Where is it? I'm clicking I'm like, it's the live TV tab. My wife's like, what are you yelling at? I'm like, I can't find the fucking game. But it's not on Amazon Prime.
What are the Amazon games? What day are the Amazon games?
I thought they were today.
Oh.
I thought they were.
I don't know. I know it's a mess. Sunday's going to be like the day of reckoning, right? Because that's when Sunday Ticket debuts on YouTube TV. I know there's a lot of old men not happy about this at all. Not 45 plus men are very, very upset about what's going to occur on Sunday.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It's not just going to be them. It's going to be everybody because those streams are going to be like 40 seconds behind, which for a normal person is fine.
Oh, I watched the Super Bowl on YouTube TV a couple years ago, which was cool because it was in 4K, so it looked great. But we quickly realized we had to let our phones go because my buddy would be looking at his phone and be like,
yeah.
And then we'd look up and we'd be like, what? And he's like, someone's going to hold on a minute. And we'd sit there and wait. And then all of a sudden, like a minute later, here's this big play. And we were like, okay, we got to get this thing out of here. Phones go away. Don't look at the phone. Cause it was a pretty, and I don't know if it's different cause it was in 4K or whatever, but it was a dramatic difference between like,
no, you know how these streams are. They're always behind a little. None of them are synced up. Like I might be 40 seconds behind. You might be 25 seconds behind. You know what I mean? Like streams are weird like that. And not only just what you're saying, people getting spoiled by their phones, people not being able to participate in social media while the game's going on because of the delay. Think about the real-time gambling, which is a huge business now. You could throw that right out the window.
Yeah, 45 seconds is a big amount of time.
Forget it. Yeah, I mean, 20 seconds is a huge amount of time. So you could forget real-time gambling. You could forget participating in social media. You could forget getting sport. I mean, it's gonna be a mess. Let alone
I can't wait.
Let alone all the problems people have. Setting it up, like you're saying. Maybe some of the older people. Just getting it ordered, getting it set up, not understanding where to go, and the 2 login limit that they're setting, so you can only watch 2 different games at the same time in your house.
Oh, interesting. That's not going to go well.
Rich, it fucking stinks. Okay,
Poor TV guy over there can't be happy about it.
No, it was so much better on DirecTV. I mean, it just in every single way. Like, forget 4 TV guy because I'm a weirdo. How many? There's not that many 4 TV guys in one room. What about like a family of 5? You got the father, you got the mother, you got a couple of kids. What if they're all fans of different teams? You're locked into 2 games because you only get the 2 logins. It's even people like that are getting screwed with this whole deal. So, no, I don't see how anyone could possibly be looking forward to the package moving to YouTube TV.
Yeah, seems like it's going to be a bad day. But no, about my football fandom, I grew up in the 90s. Obviously, it was, my formative years. And I think just because of ESPN and SportsCenter and stuff, I didn't care about like my hometown team or whatever. I obviously did for basketball because my hometown team was, the Chicago Bulls. So that was kind of easy. And I cared about my hometown team in the 90s for baseball because it was the White Sox and Frank Thomas fucking rocked. So it was like very easy to kind of like those 2 teams. But the Bears were like bad. And then I would watch the highlights and I'm like, well, all these guys are much more fun and much better. Plus, because I used to watch football all the time. But on a Sunday, you could watch a bunch of different stuff. Like I would never, if the Bears were up against another team, I'd always watch the other team. I was like, I'm going to go watch these guys, because there was always just, the stars of the 90s. There's all those guys that were just incredible. Like I became a huge Randy Moss guy for a while. I didn't really follow a team. I just kind of followed dudes that I liked. And then Madden turned that into, following guys that I liked playing as and following teams I liked playing as or whatever. So I never really quite got in with the Bears emotionally. And that's probably for the better.
Yeah, you got to eliminate some of these sports as you get older anyway.
Yeah, who's got time for football? I don't
just don't have the time.
Well, I've always said my thing is on Sundays. I can swagger walk into any grocery store, apple orchard in the world, Joe. It's a ghost town there when the Bears are on. I actually wish, honestly, I wish the Bears were really good because then like nobody, because you could see as the season wears on that my plan starts to kind of lose steam. By early December, it's like everybody's just doing everything again. The Sunday, like, because those first couple of Sundays, you can go anywhere in this town. It's a ghost town. It's incredible. I love it. It's just, and then little by little, as they start to get bad and people start to have to, fight their wives about, watching. No, I got to watch that. She's like, don't they suck? And he's like, okay, I guess they do. Or guys just decide I don't need to watch this stupid team anymore. My plan starts to erode a little bit, but it's fun for a couple of weeks. So hopefully they're good.
Well, I still don't have my local Fox. So,
geez. So you don't have your Fox. What's the thing with Disney right now? Because I know that's been causing some. ESPN and ABC are not on Spectrum. Is that what it is?
Spectrum.
Yeah,
Spectrum cable systems are not getting ESPN. I don't have my local Fox, which means this Sunday there's 2 games that I just can't watch. They're going to be blacked out on Sunday Ticket, and I can't watch the Fox. 49ers, Pittsburgh, and whatever the 4:00 game is on Fox. Because, my plan is use 2 of my logins for 2 of the TVs and then put on just the over-the-air games on the other 2 TVs, whatever's on Fox and whatever's on CBS, right? So I could still have games on all 4 TVs most Sundays.
Does YouTube have do they have like a mosaic or whatever? I forget what they call it.
They do. They're having a so DirecTV used to have the 8-game and the 4-game screen.
Okay.
Right?
I forget what the branding of that was, but yeah, for people that don't know, it's just all the screens showing or all the games showing up at a time.
YouTube's going to have a 4-game screen. They're not going to have an 8-game screen, but you're going to have a 4-game screen. But the advantage, what you could do on the YouTube one is choose which games you want on the 4-game screen.
All right. Yeah, that's kind of cool.
DirecTV, you couldn't do that. You had the 8-game screen and the 4-game screen, and they picked the games. So, and we would try to pick like the 4 biggest games, but they'd always fuck it up. But that's one advantage in a sea of disadvantages, and no 8-game screen. which was helpful. But this Fox thing with DirecTV, I mean, I'm just looking at the schedule now. The Cowboys don't play on Fox until week 3.
Oh, I was going to say,
24th.
Jesus Christ, they better get that figured out in Texas or else.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It has to be settled.
There will
by
be
then.
pitchforks. There will be.
There, yeah.
January 6th, look out. Yeah. Don't give Texas their Cowboy games on a Sunday. That's not going to go well.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. I'm just not looking forward to it as much as I used to now that it's on YouTube. It's fucking disaster,
there you go. Join me.
you know?
Yeah, join me. Go to the Apple Orchard on Sunday instead, Joe.
Just frustrating.
Pick some apples.
It's never as good. It's never as good or as clean. You know, a picture with the stream. It just isn't. I mean, people can swear up and down that it is, but every now and then it'll just get fuzzy randomly. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah,
The stream sometimes. And for wrestling, like everybody always used to blame the network. You know, this fucking network. The screen's all fuzzy or it's not working. No, it's just that's the nature of streaming. You know, it's everybody has their own internet speeds, and it's all a mess. But
are you still getting what's the DirecTV gimmick where you'd be able to see like the big plays or whatever, where if there was a goal line stand or whatever, they would switch to that.
Red Zone?
Red Zone, yeah. Is that getting carried over too?
You really aren't familiar with Red Zone?
Nah. Why would I be familiar with Red Zone? I don't give a shit.
See, Red Zone, to me, I don't watch a ton of Red Zone because if you're watching everything, you're not watching anything.
I watched it one time. I was at a buddy's house and they had it on, and I hated it. And I couldn't say that I hated it
people love
because
it.
they were like, they were just like, because it's nonstop excitement. But I'm like, this is nothing. It's just that you're not getting a flow of the game. You don't know what's actually going on. It's just bouncing between these different things, and you're seeing all these goal line stands and big play. I don't know. I like a little bit of the. You need some of the calm to make the important moments feel better and feel bigger.
You don't get a real feel for any of the games.
Right. You don't know that like what led to the thing happening. It's like it's not the same as sitting and watching a really good, drive, just little by little, chipping down the, getting a first down here and a first down there and boom, a big play here, and then a first down, now they're in the red zone. You just see the red zone part. You have no idea what led to it. You have no idea what led to them being on the 1 yard line or whatever. And that kind of takes all the fun out of it, I think.
Yeah, red zone is okay sometimes in the late window when there's only 3 or 4 games on because they can show you enough of each game that you do kind of get a feel for what's going on. But when it's a busy early window and there's like 9 or 10 games,
oh madness!
I rather just choose 3 or 4 games to focus on, that I'm most interested in, and red zone to me isn't all that useful. For many years people didn't realize that there were 2 red zones concurrently because DirecTV had their own red zone channel, the original and the better version, and the NFL produced their own version of the red zone channel, which is what most people got. If you didn't have DirecTV, you'd get the NFL produced version of the red zone, different host, different setup, everything. And because people weren't no one was aware of that. Like a lot of people weren't aware that there were 2 different red zones until last year when everybody found out that the DirecTV red zone was going away when the Sunday ticket package went away, and that the NFL red zone was taking over and going to be the one that everybody gets. And it was like, so many people had no clue that like for 20 years, there were 2 different red zones. They only were aware of the one that they were receiving on their TV. So that was a weird oddity too. But the Chris Hansen version is the one that, or Scott Hansen, whatever the hell his name is.
That's a weird red zone.
That'd be awesome, wouldn't it?
That one, yeah.
That'd be tremendous.
That would be
Hansen red zone.
Chris Hansen red zone. Yikes.
Yeah, the Andrew Siciliano red zone, the superior red zone, is the one that's going away. I DVR'd it last year, and I did watch it for a little nostalgia. Maybe a tear ran down my eye. The final version of the real and original red zone. Still have it saved on the DVR, but yeah, everything changes. Nothing stays the same, and we get this inferior YouTube TV Sunday ticket starting this Sunday.
There you go. Well, did not mean to break out into an impromptu NFL intelligentsia, but if you do want to listen to Joe spend, what's the combined hours on the 2 NFL intelligentsias here?
So I split the 2 NFL intelligentsia preview shows into AFC and NFC with the intent of keeping both of them at a neat and tidy 60 minutes because it's a lot to cover the entire league. So I figured, all right, so I'll do an NFC show with Tyler Forness, and I'll do an AFC show with Jesse Collins. We'll keep them both to a neat and tidy 60. The NFC show went 2 hours and 30 minutes, and the AFC show went 3 hours.
Perfect.
So they're
great.
They're both behind the paywall, and you've got yourself, what is that, 5.5 hours?
Yes, nearly 6 hours.
Content.
Nearly 6 hours of NFL preview content up, flagshippatreon.com, patreon.com/voices of wrestling, and voicesofwrestling.com/Patreon. Yeah, I can't believe you actually came to the table with 90 minutes on your mind. you know that couldn't possibly
I was like,
happen.
you know what? We're gonna shoot for 60 and maybe end up doing 90. But you're never gonna believe this, Rich. But we went off topic a few times on the shows and didn't stay on track. You know that tends to happen.
Well, not on this show. No, we are only professional wrestling here on this show. 100% pro wrestling.
Clearly,
clearly. The first 20 minutes of this show aside, we are always 100% into professional wrestling here on the Flagship Podcast. But we're going to do that today. We're going to talk about Payback. Yes, Joe, the most recent WWE Premium Live event, Payback. We'll touch on that, review the show. The latest on CM Punk, the termination follow-up. We talked a lot about it on our Instant Reaction Live for All Out on Sunday, but we have a little bit more news and details and reports and this sort of stuff about Punk and what's kind of happened in the days since, and everybody losing their goddamn minds about it as well. So we'll touch on that. Ace Steel also gone from AEW. We will quickly discuss that news from PWI Insider. The AEW Collision number that was not a good rating this week, and we'll something that we warned about, something that we knew was going to come, and it came swiftly, and it's probably not going to go away. So we got to kind of get used to these numbers here. But we'll talk about that number. UFC and WWE, the merger of Endeavor and WWE is coming very, very soon. In fact, it's coming next week. It's expected to close on September 12th. So we'll discuss a little bit about that, what it means and what it could possibly mean for WWE and just kind of the new uncharted territory that we're going here with WWE business now that they will be merged with Endeavor and UFC and be TKO Group Holdings. TKO Holdings. But before we get to any of that stuff, though, we do need to talk about the unfortunate news that longtime pro wrestler and manager Adnan Al-Kaissy passed away on September 6th at the age of 84. So I know that we won't, it's probably not going to be as long as the Terry Funk retrospective, but still, Sheik Adnan Al-Kaissy led a very, very long and fruitful life in both, life itself and pro wrestling as well. Was around for many, many, many years. And any thoughts that you have initially when you heard the news and anything about his career you wanted to touch on here as we kind of, quickly go through his career and his life.
I think people will be surprised at the life he lived. I think most people remember him as General Adnan during the ill-fated Sergeant Slaughter Iraqi turncoat gimmick in 1990, 1991 WWF, where he managed Sergeant Slaughter as General Adnan and, of course, Iron Sheik as Colonel Mustafa. Pretending this is just some new wrestler that no one is familiar with, Colonel Mustafa, despite the fact that it was very clearly
like 6 years prior too. Like 6 years prior. It'd be like, WWE bringing back, I'm trying to think of who left there like 6 years ago. Like go back to the roster 6 years ago and bring a guy back and just pretend that he was never there before.
Not just that,
and also like a guy who was their champion. He was their champion 6 years ago.
Not even setting all of that aside with that distinctive look.
Right. It was also like the Iron Sheik. Yeah, it was also the Iron Sheik.
They didn't even bother shaving the mustache. I mean, we did nothing to make this Colonel Mustafa. I think he used the fucking camel clutch.
Of course he
too,
did. Yeah, of course he did. It was nothing. He had the shoe. It was everything. It was exactly Iron Sheik. They just called him Colonel Mustafa.
Yeah, so that's probably how most people remember him because that was his most high-profile national run and all those things. When I think of Adnan Al-Kaissy, I think of that run. I think of the mid to late 70s WWF Tag Team Championship run when he was Chief Billy White Wolf or Indian Billy White Wolf. He was billed as both. tag team partner of Chief Jay Strongbow and their various. Should have looked this up beforehand, but I think they were 2 or 3 time WWF tag team champions. Actually, it looks like it was one.
I know
time,
one time
so.
for sure. I don't know about. I know one time.
So there's that run, and of course, he worked as Billy White Wolf in a number of different places. He,
which, if you can't tell, is obviously a Native American gimmick. Which is funny because he is literally born. He's an Iraqi man. He was born in Iraq. We'll talk about his life here in a little bit, but he broke into the industry as a fake Native American, and that's what WWF, I should say, used him as well. Billy White Wolf teaming with Chief Jay Strongbow as the quote unquote the Indians. So that's their term, not mine. The Indians, Billy White Wolf and Chief Jay Strongbow. Yeah.
Yeah. Even Indian Billy White Wolf was how he was billed in some places too. But he broke in, he did work as Adnan Al-Kaissy very early in his career in some places, but he was Billy White Wolf in all the territories he bounced around to, whether it was Portland, Hawaii, Barnett's WCW in Australia. When he worked for Jim Barnett's WCW promotion in Australia, he was worked as Billy White Wolf. A lot of the territories of the day where most guys would bounce around before landing in the WWF in the mid 70s. And then when the third run, I think that I think of anyway, third major run is when he got to the AWA in 1981.
That's how I remember him the most, honestly. And I know the General Adnan thing was a bigger deal, but I remember him distinctly in the AWA. I went back, when the network first dropped, that was one of the first things I did is just watch as much AWA as I possibly could. And that's the one that really stuck with me in his career, because I think at that time, I think he's doing a tremendous job as well.
Yeah, that's the Sheik Adnan Al-Kaissy run, where he dropped the Billy White Wolf gimmick. And because at that time in the early 80s, Middle Eastern hostilities were heating up, so it was good heat to have. See, for years and years and years, every territory had to have an Indian character, which now the accepted term is Native American, but back then, even the real authentic Native Americans of the day, like Wahoo McDaniel, who was not a put-on Native American, like he was a real Native American, would call himself an Indian,
right?
And
my dad's almost 100%, and he calls himself an Indian. I'm like, you don't have to say that.
Yeah,
you don't have to call yourself that.
Well, and
that's what he says. Yeah, that's what they know. I mean, he grew up his entire life being called an Indian, and his family calling themselves Indians and all that sort of stuff. It was the term.
So and every territory, it was just a staple gimmick, and they would wear the headdress and everything, and it just was different times. And younger people listening aren't going to understand.
Right, the Briscoes were more than happy to call themselves Indians. You know what I mean? Which seems
Briscoes
insane.
Cherokee, I think.
Yeah, they're. So I found out they're not. They're like another weird. They're close enough to Cherokee. I think everybody kind of thought they were. I thought they were, but it turns out they're something a little bit different. But
yeah, and they would even feud with people and call them like stinky Indians. Like they'd be like, "Wahoo, you stinky Indian!" Like shit like that. Like it's just. That's how it was in those times, and you're going to have younger people who are just totally like, oh my God, well, what the fuck? And, but every territory had someone doing that gimmick. And sometimes like Wahoo McDaniel, they were legitimate Native Americans. And sometimes, like in this case, you had an Iraqi guy, legitimately from Iraq. And, in 1967,
a high school classmate of Saddam Hussein is now, what are we going to do with you? You know what? Why don't you be a Native American? Here you go. Here's the address.
Yeah, because in the 60s and early 70s, there was no money in having a Middle Eastern character.
No. And the Nazi thing had kind of run out. I mean, I say kind of because there was...
Still had some Nazi characters. Still
Still the last vestiges of Nazi characters still prevalent by that point. But by the 70s, you kind of, you had to figure out a new slant. And that was, for a while, was Native American.
Which, again, if you're super young and you're like, what? Nazi characters? No, yes, absolutely. Like
Fritz
every
von
territory.
Erich. Baron von Raschke. Yes.
Like, shit, let's have Nazis for heat. That's just the way it was. And it's I know with the resurgence, with Donald Trump and the resurgence of, all these, this Nazi shit, it's a whole different society is way different now. And you can never, ever, ever get away with having Nazi heels in pro wrestling, not in the current political climate. But, in the 50s and 60s, 20 years after World War II, there weren't many territories where some Nazis didn't stroll through. It was
of course, great heat, easy heat. Here's a Nazi, boo!
Absolutely, complete with the swastikas and everything.
Oh, yeah, and then the American guy would beat him, and everybody would go, yeah, America! And then they'd kick the Nazi out, and then he would go away.
Or they would feud with the Indian. It's just,
right.
It's a... But anyway, so here's an Iraqi guy who, as Rich noted, childhood friend and high school classmate, legit,
yes,
of Saddam Hussein.
Legit.
So this guy knew Saddam Hussein, was friends with Saddam Hussein, became a legitimate amateur wrestler, and came to the United States as a young man to wrestle in college and all of that.
He got a football scholarship too. I actually found that out. It was I can't believe, I don't know how he even... Maybe it was based off his wrestling, and they thought, hey, this guy could maybe work in football, because I cannot imagine a whole lot of American football being played in Iraq in the 60s. Maybe I'm wrong, but it looked like he got a football scholarship from the University of Houston and then ended up going to Oklahoma State as a wrestler. So very bizarre. I was like, oh, my God, I don't know how he got it may have just simply been, hey, this guy's big and giant, let's try him out in football. But wrestling was, amateur wrestling was, he ended up, being his forte.
Yeah, and then, in some of his early years in wrestling, he would go back to Iraq and bring pro wrestling to Iraq. And but that ended as Saddam Hussein began to gain power. Adnan, things started to get ugly over there and a little fishy, and he eventually
he started to from what I read, it was like he wasn't quite sure where he stood anymore with Saddam and wasn't quite sure what he was being used for, and just said, you know what, I think I'm gonna get out of here before something bad happens. And he was probably smart to do that.
Yeah, and then he just permanently relocated to America and never looked back.
Married an American woman and got citizenship and just stayed there.
Which, later on when he was doing the gimmick in the WWF, he was obviously very close personally to that because he knew the guy growing up. But so yeah, he did the Billy White Wolf gimmick all over the world, really. And I know today I found out he had a New Japan run where he did the Middle Eastern gimmick there. He called himself the Sheik of Sheiks of Baghdad.
Yes.
Very wordy name. But,
a lot of, I noticed that. I never knew that either. I never knew that he was the Sheik of Sheiks of Baghdad. But yeah, I discovered that this week.
Yeah. And then, of course, the WWF tag title run I talked about in the mid 70s, where he teamed with Chief Jay Strongbow. Now, Chief Jay Strongbow was kind of the house American Indian gimmick in that territory for years and years and years. And he wasn't a real Native American either. Chief Jay Strongbow, his name was, I think, Joe Scarpa.
Yeah. Are you telling me Joe Scarpa?
he was an
Isn't
Italian
a Sioux
guy.
Indian? This man is not a Sioux Indian. He's Italian. Joe Scarpa is an Italian and not a Sioux. Okay. All right. I'll take your word for it.
I figured there's plenty of Italians in this territory, and it's going to be easier for me to get over if I take on.
And he was right.
Gimmick. And he was right. And Chief Jay Strongbow was a mainstay there for years and years. He was really he was an atrocious, mind-numbingly bad pro wrestler. Chief Jay Strongbow is one of the worst pushed pro wrestlers you'll ever see in your life. He's just beyond awful. But he was always a pushed guy, and he was really the gatekeeper for Bruno, and later on the gatekeeper for the other babyface champions, whether it was Pedro Morales or Bob Backlund, but Bruno, primarily, where you would have the monster heel come in. They'd start off on the bottom of the card. They'd work their way up. They'd eventually beat Chief Jay Strongbow in Madison Square Garden, or do an angle and beat up Chief Jay Strongbow or something. And then that would lead to their title program with Bruno. And then, depending how long they felt someone could draw money with Bruno, maybe they'd, do a DQ with Bruno. Maybe they'd do an angle with Bruno. Maybe they would just wrestle Bruno once and lose, and that would be that. But then they'd work their way back down the card and leave the territory. But Chief Jay Strongbow was often the gatekeeper for those heels that would eventually face Bruno, and then later some of the other babyface champions. But he did form that tag team with Billy White Wolf in 1976, and they were always in the tag team title mix. They wrestled the Executioners a ton. The Masked Executioners, which were an aging Killer Kowalski and a young Big John Studd, who was under those masks as the Masked Executioners, and they were tag team champions multiple times, I think. But that was their primary feud. A lot of times they would team with Andre in 6-man matches to face the Executioners and, you know, whatever heel they were going to team with, you know, whether it was Stan Hansen or I watched the match earlier today where they teamed with Bruiser Brody, who was in for a couple months. So that was their primary feud with the Executioners, and they never actually lost the tag team titles in the ring. What they did was Billy White Wolf, I guess he was finishing up and moving on to wherever he was moving on. And they were in a program with a heel, Ken Patera, and various partners. And what they did was they did an angle where Patera broke Billy White Wolf's neck with the
swinging neck breaker. Yeah, swinging neck breaker, right?
Yeah, like it, you know, the angle actually is on YouTube. So, you know, it's swinging neck breaker, full Nelson, whatever you want to call it. And he doesn't let go of the hold. You know, it's very much a 70s angle. It's not like he didn't put him through 4 tables and beat him with a chair. No, he just put him in the full Nelson and held the hold. And they did the stretcher job. All the baby faces run in, Patera lets go, and Billy White Wolf sells it. He's dead. He doesn't move a muscle. And they put him on the stretcher and get him out of there, and you never see him again. He's just gone. That's how they got the tag team titles off of them. So they had to vacate the tag team titles, and he just, I think, left the territory and didn't come back until the 90s. So, no, and it's ironic because they did that angle with Ken Patera, but they would reunite in the AWA a couple years later. So anyway, he bounces back around the territories. You know, he worked Hawaii a lot and places like that. And then in 81, he pops up in the AWA as Sheik Adnan Al-Kaissy. And he came in and with the objective of going after world champion Nick Bockwinkel. And if you look at, what they would do, and I remember these matches, and they're wretched. I don't recommend them, but except for historical purposes.
Yeah, he's not a great wrestler.
Yeah.
He's just
no. He was, and here's the thing: he was never a great wrestler.
No,
like this was not a guy who, you know, even though he was considered a good amateur, he was never a good worker in, you know, professional wrestling, even when he was younger. Like those tag team matches with Strongbow are not good. And this stuff here is probably some of Bockwinkel's, you know, least impressive matches. He comes in the feud with Bockwinkel, and it's weird because a lot of it is heel versus heel stuff. You know, Bockwinkel's still managed by Bobby Heenan at this time. And I remember a few years ago, I watched some of this, and I'm sure some of it's still around. He would have these matches with Bockwinkel, and depending on what city they were in, they would have a special guest referee. So let's say they were in Canada. The special referee might be Mad Dog Vachon. If they were in Minnesota, the referee might be Baron Von Raschke. So what they would do is it'd be a heel versus heel match with a babyface special referee. Okay. And the finishes were almost always the same. What they would do is, you know, they brawl for 7 or 8 minutes. And then Adnan the special referee, Heenan would throw a chair into the ring. Something would happen with the ref. Heenan would throw a chair into the ring. The ref would eventually get a hold of the chair, swing at Bockwinkel, who would duck, and it would knock out Adnan, right? And then Bockwinkel would cover Adnan, and the babyface ref would shrug his shoulders and go, "Oh, I guess I have to count," right? And Bockwinkel would win the match. Then Adnan would come to and attack the referee, whoever it would be in that town, right? And then that would set up a match between Adnan and either Vashon or Rashki or one of these guys in the town the next month. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So, and they would do that all over the loop. Like, that would be the match. That'd be, Bockwinkel would beat them. They would do the same finish, just with a different referee. And then it would set up a rematch where Adnan would then face the babyface ref the next month in that town or whatever. And the matches are all hideous. I mean, they're awful matches.
Yeah.
I mean, the Bockwinkel matches and then the rematches too are all pretty terrible. But then, around that time, he was born in 1939. So he's into his 40s at this point. He's 41, 42, 43 years old during this era. And, he Crusher, Jerry Blackwell turns heel, and he's teaming with and sort of managing Jerry Blackwell, who has taken on a Sheik persona himself.
Yes, he was the Sheik Ayatollah, Jerry Blackwell.
Yes. So now he's doing like the tag team thing with Jerry Blackwell, and they're going after the tag team titles, the High Flyers, whatever baby faces were holding the titles at that time. But Adnan's getting older, and he doesn't want to wrestle as much and not take as many bumps. So what they do is they have Ken Patera join the group, who also is rechristened as a Sheik. So you have Sheik Adnan Al-Kaissy managing Jerry Blackwell and Ken Patera as the Sheiks, and which is preposterous. You have these. Everybody knows Jerry Blackwell. And
Jerry Blackwell looks so ridiculous with it. Patera looks pretty terrible too, but Blackwell, this fat bearded white man with the Sheik hat. It's just
yeah. You got Patera with his bleach blonde hair doing a Sheik
it's
gimmick.
Absurd. Yeah, it's absurd.
Everyone knows he was an Olympic lifter, but he's a Sheik. It's
absurd.
So that was kind of it for him. Is like he wrestled plenty. It's not like he stopped wrestling, but he was more a manager who his secondary deal was, a wrestler. But, he still wrestled a ton, and the idea was to get out of the ring, but it didn't really work out that way. But the Sheiks had various AWA tag team title runs, and the AWA business was still pretty strong at that time. The AWA business didn't start going downhill, I don't know, until 85, 86.
Yeah, I was going to say,
plummeted.
84 is when you start seeing some dents, and then 85, 86 is when it really just starts to crater.
Yeah, and they're still somewhat sustainable, and then by 87 you can forget it. It's just a straight drop. But he stuck with the AWA basically through their death. He was a constant there, and with each year he was doing less and less actual wrestling and more and more managing. But he even on one of the super clashes, I'm trying to find it, I think on one of the super clashes he even managed Iron Sheik in a match.
Yes,
so,
I just saw that one not that long ago. I forget which one, but yes, I think 3 maybe
one of his firings from
WWE. Well, it's somewhere around there. I think 3 or it's either 2 or 3. I forget which one, but
yeah,
those shows stink too. those are so bad.
They're not great. And then the AWA folds, and McMahon decides that it would be really good heat to do Sergeant Slaughter as an Iraqi sympathizer, and he thinks he could fill up the LA Coliseum with the Iraqi in the middle of the Gulf War, with the Iraqi sympathizing Sergeant Slaughter with his Iraqi manager, his shoot Iraqi manager, General Adnan, and Colonel Mustafa, and build to a Hulk Hogan match in the Coliseum. And we all know how that went. People rejected it.
No. It was security threats.
Yes.
So
there
just
was
decided,
so much heat that the security.
Yeah, there were security threats. So they decided to move it to the LA Sports Arena right when they sold about 14,000 tickets, and said, "You know what? I think we are good. We're gonna go, due to security purposes, move the event to the LA Sports Arena, and not sell any more tickets to this show." So there you go.
Yeah. And then shortly after that, didn't work out. Slaughter eventually, I want my country back.
Right. Well, and then the other part too is like they get all ready for Sergeant Slaughter to be this Iraqi sympathizer, and then as we know, and as people that live through it know, that that war did not end up lasting quite as long as maybe everybody thought it would, and they kind of went in and they finished it, quote unquote finished it. I'm using the biggest air quotes you can ever use, but for the time it was like it ended by like early 91, and then it was like, oh well, now what the hell do we do? And they basically tried for 2 or 3 more months to get more heat, and it was just A, it was already being rejected, and B, the war was over for all intents and purposes. So it was like, yeah, they were really spinning their wheels. And yeah, like you said, Slaughter wanted his country back, got his country back, he went back babyface, but then they kept Colonel Mustafa, and they kept General Adnan with Colonel Mustafa.
Yeah, they Adnan and Mustafa, yeah, well, they had a short feud with Slaughter, and he beat Mustafa on the house shows. He beat them in handicap matches on the house shows. So they did stick around a while. Adnan did a torch talk with Wade Keller in 1993, and it wasn't super insightful, but I haven't here. I'll read through it. Let's see what he had to say about it as someone who was an actual Iraqi who knew Saddam Hussein.
Do you have the paper copy here? Is that what I just heard you do?
Yeah.
Look at that. Look at that research. There you go.
So Keller says, what prompted you to go to the WWF? Adnan, they promised me good money because of the war situation and me being from Baghdad and all that. So I did it for 1.5 years, and the money was good.
Asked and answered. There you go.
That is an answer.
That is that's a wrestler answer too. They paid me.
It's a wrestler answer.
I got paid.
And you'll see how Keller is trying to make it like you'll see it with the line of questioning where the direction he's trying to go. Keller, you must be aware of the controversy that came out of that angle in the media and with the fan backlash. Do you agree the angle was in poor taste? Adnan, yeah, there was a lot of heat. It was in poor taste, but the promoter wants to take advantage of it and make money. Sarge and I were the hottest thing to ever hit the WWF for a while. So you see, it's the wrestler mindset. He don't care. He's like, the promoter wants to make money, and we're making money. And he also has the delusion of a wrestler where he claims that they were the hottest thing in the WWF for a while, which obviously was never true. Keller, do you regret participating in the angle? Adnan, I will do anything the first time, but I do not care to do it again. Keller, do you think McMahon felt bad that parents whose kids were dying or risking their lives overseas saw those efforts exploited by the WWF? Adnan, hey, Vince wouldn't have cared if Mir Sarge got shot with a machine gun. He would have been happy. My God. Keller.
I don't know if he'd be happy, but I guess that's good heat, I suppose.
Do you think it was ethically questionable when McMahon first proposed the idea to you, or was it the actual execution of the angle that you objected to? This is me now. I don't know that he necessarily objects to it based on his answers.
No.
Keller's trying to push an agenda here, and Adnan's just
Sheik's like, the check's cash, pal. I don't give a fuck, man. Brother, I don't give a shit. Because he thinks this Iraqi man is upset that he was forced to play in Iraqi during the war and go against, his old friend or whatever. But Sheik's been in America for too long, and he's a pro wrestler. So he's like, I don't fucking care. I got paid.
So here's his answer to that one. Well, I never thought the war was going to go on. I never thought they were going to go to war. Keller, if you knew the war was inevitable, would you have probably refused to participate in the angle? Keller's something else.
Just say you hate it. Just say you hate it and you felt exploited, please. Just come on.
So Adnan's answer to that one is, yeah, sure.
Oh, boy. Okay, well, that's the interview over. Yeah, we're done now. Yeah, sure.
Keller.
Okay, we're done.
Keller, did you ever think of pulling out of the angle? Adnan, no.
No period. N-O period?
Yes. Keller.
He's like, brother, you're fucking with my money, man. Come on.
Did Slaughter ever show regret behind the scenes for what he was doing? Adnan, he did later on, but not during. Period. Keller, you can sense that Adnan's getting frustrated with this line of questioning. He's like, dude, I'm making money. I don't know. I don't care. Keller, Was that probably the time in your career where you most feared for your safety? Adnan, yeah, I wore a bulletproof vest. We had a lot of guards, so there were no problems. Outside the ring, I had to change my looks. Keller, what was the worst part of being involved in wrestling? Adnan, the injuries, period.
The injuries.
Keller, whom, through all of your travels, do you admire most? Adnan, Ivan Koloff, he's a good person, period. Keller, thank you for your time. Adnan, you're welcome, period.
Left and gone. Or
This
probably the phone hung up. Phone hung up immediately right after that, right?
You can tell, now there's more to it, because I jumped in at the WWF Iraqi part. But there's not much more to it. It's all very short answers, and they get real short when Keller starts pestering him about the Iraqi angle. So Keller wrote a little summary of his experience with Adnan here, and he says, and I quote, "Most Torch Talk subjects are familiar with the Torch, read it regularly, know the tone of the questions that are going to be asked, and know that elaborate answers are encouraged. Adnan was a nice enough guy, but he didn't seem entirely familiar with the format and kept his answers guarded and short." Yeah, I would say so. A lot of them were like two-word answers.
I would say that is guarded and short, yeah.
Nevertheless, there were a few gems of insight during the short interview, including him admitting he knew how much he feared for his safety while he played an Iraqi sympathizer during the Gulf War. He also said he went into the angle not thinking the U.S. would actually go to war with Iraq. Like many former WWE wrestlers, he had negative things to say about Vince McMahon, seemingly inspired by the fact that the WWF was unable to offer him a lifetime employment. Today, Adnan is wrestling independently in the Minnesota area. He owned a grocery store in Minneapolis, but that store has since closed. So I remembered this interview being tense and uncomfortable, but it was even more tense and uncomfortable than I remembered now that I'm reading it back here on the air. But yeah, you could see that for the most part, while that's true, and he's not making that up, you know, there were threats of Slaughter's life and Adnan's life during the angle. Slaughter has talked about that.
Yeah. Oh,
that's been on the record for a while. But and you know, he's noting that he had to wear a bulletproof vest and all that. But you can see kind of the mindset there where Keller is aghast that they would do this angle. Keller is disgusted. He can't believe that this was a thing, and he's kind of poking Adnan to like, well, you know, it's almost like he can't believe that Adnan isn't that pressed by
Right. I can't believe you would take this money to do this. Don't you feel regret? Don't you feel like you were being exploited or whatever? But like, and I think Slaughter said this too, and I'm sure Sheik said it too. Like, what the hell? We weren't doing anything, and Vince said, "Hi, I want all three of you to be in the main event of WrestleMania." Why the fuck would they say no? As quote unquote exploitative as it was, but to them it wasn't. To them, they came up in a wrestling business that this wasn't exploitive. Like you said, this would have occurred in any other year. It just it definitely shows you the changing of the guard that was occurring even by that point, even by 1991, 1990, 91, 92, in that era where society is changing a little bit, where now this becomes a thing that's like, oh my God, I can't believe you'd exploit this, where, yeah, they would of course exploit this in every other decade in any other history of professional wrestling. And these guys came up in that industry. So to him, he's like, I don't care. I played a fucking American Indian for years. Like, I don't give a shit. I got paid, and I'm from Iraq. It doesn't bother me that much. So it's crazy though, because you could not do that today. You know what I mean? Like Wade would be the one, the very rational one in this case in 2023. Yeah. But at this time, he comes across as like, he's still being rational, but it's also like, I don't know, man. Like, you could see why Adnan on his side is just like, I don't care. I got paid, man. I wasn't doing anything.
Wade is looking for some juice there.
Right.
And it's almost like he's trying to massage an interesting answer out of him. He's looking for a specific answer that unfortunately he's never going to get. When he first asks him about the angle, Adnan's answer is more wordy. He's like, oh yeah, we paid good money. We were hot, you know, that sort of thing. And then Wade just keeps going down that road because he's trying to get that angst out of this man. The problem is it's not there. And Adnan's getting, you could tell, increasingly frustrated with the line of questioning because, and then Wade realizes it's okay, this is a dead end. I'm not going to get what I want out of this. And he shifts it to, the end of his career and what he thinks of pro wrestling and all that. And then it's so uncomfortable that the interview just ends. So, but those early torch talks with Keller are all very interesting in that regard because he's right. Because when he would sit down with people like Paul Heyman or Jerry Lawler or Mick Foley or, Eddie Gilbert is another good example. Jim Cornette, when he would interview people like that, they knew the deal, right? They knew what the torch was. They knew what the tone of these things were. They knew that Wade was someone who understood the inner workings of the business. They could speak freely. Of course, they're wrestlers. They're always going to work to a point. They know what they're putting out there, but you get the idea. But occasionally he would run into interview subjects like this, especially a guy like this that was born in 1939 and his whole life was protecting kayfabe and protecting the business. And he would get these more short, curt answers. And if he went places that these guys weren't comfortable, they would totally close off on him, and that's why, some of these interviews, when you read them back some 30 years later, are very interesting because we were still kind of in the late 80s, early 90s when a lot of these guys weren't so comfortable with, the dirt sheet writers and people like Wade Keller and Dave Meltzer. And other wrestlers were smart, like the Eddie Gilberts and the Paul Heymans and Shane Douglas and people like that. They knew to use things like Wade Keller's torch talks to their advantage because they could spread their narrative. They could they could use it as you read back those Heyman interviews and it's like Heyman is slyly doing PR for whatever it is that he's got going on at that time. Heyman learned very early on, and he learned it from Eddie Gilbert to use the sheets to your advantage. That everything can be a tool to get yourself over and to get whatever it is that you're involved in over. Where, someone like Adnan, who obviously doesn't share the same ethics or moral codes that Wade Keller, that's a guy who strictly sees pro wrestling as a dollar and cents business. And Wade Keller is someone who was like morally aghast at this angle. So that was just never gonna, that was never gonna work. And the interview ended up being a disaster. But I just thought that was interesting and worthy of bringing up. But that's pretty much his career at that point. I mean, he's done after that angle runs its course. That's it for him in Major League Pro Wrestling. And he lived to be 82 or 83 years old.
Hold on a minute. He popped up in the American Wrestling Federation, sir.
Listen, I have to clear the floor. This is all you.
I'm watching it right now. Yes, on our Patreon, I am currently going through each and every episode of Paul Alperstein's American Wrestling Federation, Warriors of Wrestling. Very failed, very failed attempt at a national television product in 1994. And Sheik Adnan Al-Kaissy is all over these shows. He's the top heel manager of all these, and we talk about him a lot. I just released an episode talking about how bad he was the day he died. I did not mean to do that. It was scheduled for release. I released it, and then I found out that he died a couple minutes after, but it's not that bad. I'm just kind of like, I'm just aghast that, in 1994, we're still doing the Sheik character, and he's the same. He's just like, he's just doing that, and you're like, oh my god, this is 1994. We're still doing this. Like, this is really the character we're doing. And yeah, we were, and it wasn't good. And obviously, it's terrible, and it makes for just awful television, especially in 1994. But he managed Mr. Hughes. He's going to manage a bunch of other guys in the AWF as well. No spoilers, but at one point he's going to manage Bob Orton Jr. as well. I think Manny Fernandez and Hercules are all going to be part of his quote-unquote rat pack, I believe he calls them at some point. So that is in the American Wrestling Federation. Yes, we are doing that right now on our Patreon. So plenty of Sheik Adnan Al-Kaissy for us, for those listening to Freedom of Choice over there on our Patreon, flagshippatreon.com. by the way. So yeah, there's that. It's weird and not that good and kind of outdated by 1994. It was outdated in 1990. It was very outdated in 1994. And then yeah, obviously, I don't know what he did in his final couple years, post AWF, but I know that he kind of left the game in late 90s, like you said. I forget the exact time. No wrestler ever truly retires, but I want to say late 90s is when he really stopped, being a part of it from day to day.
He was a fake American Indian for all those years, who then became a legitimate, real Iraqi sheik who was really an Iraqi. And it's funny because at the same time that he was really, his career was peaking as Sheik Adnan Al-Kaissy, the other heel Middle Eastern manager in wrestling at the same time was General Skandar Akbar, who absolutely was not a real legitimate Middle Eastern
what?
man. I mean, this is a guy who, world class, and then
Texas
later on.
Accent. So are you telling me that with the Texas accent isn't actually from Iraq?
Guy's supposed to be like this Middle Eastern sheik, and he's just out there talking with a Texas drawl. Like, he didn't even try.
He didn't try at all. Yeah.
He didn't try at all. And he was the other one, and they'd get confused for each other a lot.
Oh, yeah.
The gimmicks were so similar. The gimmicks were similar, and they kind of looked alike, I guess, if you squinted real hard. So, and they were, and again, that's because in the 80s, with all of the hostility in the Middle East, you had to have yourself a heel doing that gimmick in all these places. And there were a lot of other lower level knockoffs of that kind of gimmick, but those were the two most predominant ones, and the ones that people obviously are going to remember the most. Because Skandar Akbar was with World Class when they were red hot, when they were molten hot, and Sheik Adnan Al-Kaissy was with the AWA in the early 80s when they were hot. So they were both in territories when the territories were doing well, and they were both the lead heels. And once Bobby Heenan goes, he's really the lead heel and the lead heel manager in the territory with the AWA, and Heenan is gone by 84. So, and Akbar, of course, in World Class was, one of the foils to the Von Erichs and all that. And then he went and worked for Bill Watts later on during the dying days of Mid-South, the UWF days, 86, 87, because Watts was losing Watts lost Jim Duggan, Ted DiBiase, One Man Gang, Junkyard Dog a couple years before that. He lost all these guys one by one to Vince. Like, if you watch 86 and 87 UWF, there's guys getting pushed on TV one week and then they're just gone.
They just disappear.
They're just not there anymore. And they're McMahon signs them away. He's just running out of people. And eventually Watts brings in a lot of that Texas crew. He brings in Skandar Akbar as his heel manager. He brings in Chris Adams and Iceman Parsons comes in, so Watts is digging deep, and he's trying, because by then World Class was cooling off too, so those Texas guys were looking for a place to make better money, by the late 80s, and Watts had the spots open because he was losing all of his top guys to McMahon. So Akbar kind of gets another run as a top heel manager in a different territory when he works Watts during the dying days. But it's, as those political tensions kind of fizzled off, those kind of gimmicks kind of just went away.
Unlike the Nazis, they did not last 40 years after the World War II had ended. They fizzled out pretty quickly after.
And the culture has changed too, where it's not,
With that said, WWF tried Muhammad Hassan, and it's not like WWF did try that, in the wake of 9/11 or whatever. But for the most
look
part,
how poorly it went, because they
well.
tried that. They tried the angle with the garrote wires, which simulated beheadings, and they ended up not airing it because what year was that? Like 2006?
That was because the London bombings had happened just a couple days prior to that too. So they did the garrote wire thing, and then they did 2005. I want to say was the London bombings. I want to say, but
mid 2000s is the
somewhere
point.
In that range. Yes,
because if that had been 1983, they would have just went forward with it anyway. You know what I mean? Like, but even 20 years ago, the culture had changed to the point where, doing those kind of angles and going too far with it had just become no bueno, So, we're a couple decades into it now where, if people think pro wrestling is crass and low class now, I mean,
right.
There
would be a Russian wrestler, there'd be a Ukrainian wrestler, there'd be it's
fire up your YouTube and your Peacock and behold what it used to be like.
Right. You're in your match of the week this week with Jerry Lawler and Terry Funk and Sweet Brown Sugar, by the way, which is the man's name. The future Coco Beware was called Sweet Brown Sugar at that time. Jerry Lawler gets himself canceled in like 0.2 seconds with a word that, again, people don't use anymore, but 1983 or whatever, 82, very well used and very, normally used and laughed about and just kind of chuckled. But can't make that promo in 2023. So yeah, things have changed.
Well, that word was the medical term then.
Yeah, right.
But and the reason, and we're talking about, I'm not going to say it. I don't know what you're allowed to say and not say. The R word for people who are I don't know,
mentally disabled. Yes.
So, but back in the 70s and 80s, like sometimes on YouTube, I'll watch, don't ask me why, it's comforting. What I'll do is I'll watch old news broadcasts from like, the New York City, networks, the local news broadcast from like 1983, just because it's interesting to me and I'll put it on as background noise. I'll tell you something. That word was commonly thrown around like on the news.
I know. Yeah.
Like, blank girl was found on the street last night and reunited with her parents. Like that's just the word that people. So what happened was people would use that word to make fun of people. And then that's why the word became a word you can't say anymore, because it turned into a word you can't use anymore because it was used in a negative connotation towards people. So, Lawler just, he says it immediately, like Rich is saying. And you're kind of like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that. But then you remember it's 1982 and everybody was saying, that one didn't really go away till like 10 years ago, like wholesale. Like,
right.
Now it's just now it's a full on slur. You can't say it. That really wasn't the case until like 10 years ago. But even though that's the case, you watch that match and you hear Lawler say it and you're like, wow, I can't believe he just said that. But you're like, oh yeah, well, wait a minute. Of course he did. It's 1982. So, the point here is, gimmicks like this, if you're going to do them, you have to be way more discerning now. And it probably just isn't a good idea.
It's not worth it. It's probably not worth it. Yeah. We did not see one guy come out and do a Vladimir Putin is good and everybody go, boo. And he goes, oh, he's a great man. Boo. As he's bombing Ukraine. Like that would have happened in any other era. We did not get that in this era. So. Yeah, legit Layla Hirsch, as Z points out in the note of chat room, did not come out and go, Vladimir Putin #1.
That's a perfect example.
To a course of booze, yeah.
Yeah, she'd be a Putin sympathizer. Like
right.
They would definitely have those now, but...
She'd wave the Russian flag, come out to the Russian national anthem, cut promos about how much she loves Putin or whatever, and that would be, and then she'd get booze, and then, the local American baby face would come out and say, that Putin guy sucks. And everybody goes, yeah. And then she'd win, and then it would be good, and America won. So, yeah,
she'd be Layla Putin. They'd
right. I'm a daughter of Vladimir Putin. My great father. Yeah, that's exactly what would have happened.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Sounds like good money, actually. There's nothing going on in Ring of Honor anyway. You know what I mean? Why not? Right? Do it.
No one will notice. That's
right.
Sure.
No one's going to notice. She might be doing it now, for all I know. Hell, I don't know. Is she?
Yeah. Are we sure that's not real?
I guess I don't know. I suppose I don't know now. But there you go. So that is wow. So we did not do 2 hours like we did Terry Funk, but we did an hour on Sheik Adnan Al-Kaissy. I bet nobody expected that, but there you go, an hour on one Sheik Adnan Al-Kaissy. Passed away at the age of 84. All right, so let's get to now let's talk about this WWE show, right? May as well.
You don't sound too excited.
The sooner we talk about it, the sooner we can move on. So, let's talk about Payback, Joe.
I thought it was Fastlane.
It was not Fastlane. It was Payback. You watched the whole show.
I've been calling it. I've been calling it Fastlane all week.
No, it was Payback.
You sure it wasn't Fastlane?
I'm positive it was Payback.
All right, Payback. I guess we're doing
because
Payback.
The opening promo was like, dun, 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 like people are going for payback. And it's just like, a bunch of promos about each other. It's like, dun, 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 tonight is all about payback. It's like, dun, dun, dun.
Payback reminds me of the actor Vic Tayback from
Vic Tayback.
Remember Vic Tayback from?
I don't really.
From the sitcom Alice. He was the surly short order cook.
I don't think I ever watched Alice.
Never watched Alice?
No, I don't think I ever did.
He was, Mel's Diner. A lot of people think that show is called Mel's Diner, but it's actually called Alice.
Okay.
But, all the scenes took place because Alice worked at Mel's Diner. And a lot of people think the name of the show was Mel's Diner, but it wasn't. The name of the show was Alice.
Got it.
And Vic Tayback played Mel, the owner of Mel's Diner, and he was the surly owner of this little diner and the short order cook, and he had his little quips, and it is a legendary television character, the Vic Tayback as Mel. You never saw Alice, huh?
I don't think I ever saw Alice. Now that I think about it, yeah,
right.
I'm looking at screenshots of it. I don't think I ever watched Alice. Yeah, I
Kiss my grits. Nothing.
No, I know the term. I didn't know. Is that what the term's from?
That's where it comes from.
Oh, interesting.
So,
okay, all right.
It was, I think, Polly Holiday who played. She played Flo in Alice. She was the sassy waitress. She'd always be chomping on gum. She'd be chomping on the gum with the backwards fist on her hip, not taking any guff.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And her big catchphrase, because you always had to have a catchphrase on these like 80s sitcoms. It was "Kiss my grits,"
Ha ha ha! As the laugh track goes nuts, yeah.
So she would always butt heads with Mel, as you would imagine, right? So she'd tell him to kiss her grits, and Alice was the protagonist, single mom. Because late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah, just trying to make it in this world. Just trying to make it in this new world.
The shows started to become progressive, these sitcoms, and the theme song, "There's a new girl in town," because she's moving from wherever she got her fucking kid or teenage boy with her who's a pain in the ass. And, she gets the job at the diner with Flo and Mel. And I can't think of the other waitress was like a meek, shy, because they all had to have a gimmick, every character, Vera. Vera was her name, the third waitress. And it was Linda Lavin played Alice. She was a big actress at the time. But now everybody's getting the history of the Alice sitcom. How about that?
That they all came for. Yeah.
Here's the thing. That we don't have a lot of topics because I'm breaking down Alice for you.
And I'm not stopping you. And I'm not saying, Joe, we got to get to this topic. I'm letting you go. I'm interested in this Alice thing. Should I watch Alice? Should I throw on an Alice on the old TV tonight?
You should. I think you should check out a couple episodes of Alice. It's I'm sure a lot of it, you might get some R words, but I don't know if
right.
But it's it was a good sitcom for the time, progressive for the time.
Yeah. Oh, and I miss the old diner. I mean, you're down to like a meager amount of those old diners, and I still grew up on those with the sassy waitress pouring your coffee, smells like cigarettes. Like those are gone, man. Those are never coming back either. Once the last one closes, it's over. No. It's over.
Yeah, that's the kind of place that it was, Mel's Diner.
Right. We got one in my town. There's one in the town that I was living in before that is good, but it's hanging on by a thread, man. It's hanging on by a thread. All of them are, and it's like once those go, man, it's done. It's over. Never getting another one of those again.
I could see that Frank Kirshner in the chat is familiar with the theme song because he's
singing it.
He typed out the next line of the theme song there. Frank Kirshner. That sounds like that sounds like a fake name. Frank Kirshner. You know what that sounds like? That sounds like who's the guy from Talladega Nights?
Ricky Bobby?
Will Ferrell.
Will Ferrell.
That sounds like a Will Ferrell character. Frank
Kirshner.
Right? It'd be like a Will Ferrell character or something in some movie where he's either going to prison with what's the one where he goes to prison with
Kevin Hart. Isn't it called Get Hard? Is it called Get Hard? That's Get what Hard. My head went to that. I don't know if that's actually true. Yeah, it is.
Called Get Hard.
It is Get
Hard.
Yeah,
that's the one. He would be Frank Kirshner in that movie. That would be the character's name. Alice. They gave Flo a spinoff because of course they.
Oh God, spinoffs. Yeah, always worked out well.
you can't give the one-note character a spin.
They did all the time. I mean? They always did, though.
And they constantly try it. And it's, like it just doesn't work out. So I don't think Flow was it was called Flow, and I don't think it was a big hit. In fact, it's telling me, let's see how many episodes Flow had in 1980. Here's the description. The feisty waitress opens a diner in her hometown of Cowtown, Texas.
Oh, yeah, you know that sucked. Cowtown, Texas.
They called it Cowtown, Texas. Wow, 2 seasons, 29 episodes. That's a lot longer than I would have guessed. So, I guess Flo wasn't as bad as I thought.
Yeah, there you go. Give a little credit to Flo.
Wonder if I can find an episode of Flo on.
Where's Flo streaming? It's got to be on. It's like on Zumo or one of those dumb ones. It's definitely on one of those.
29 episodes. You think there's enough there? They should just stick it on the Alice channel on that thing. No one would know the difference.
No one would know. Yeah, it appears that that's available to buy on Amazon. I don't know if you want to buy episodes of Flow. You're just trying to.
Well, let's. I know Vic Payback is dead. I know Linda Lavin is dead. Let's see if everyone on Alice is dead. Let's do that. Actually, Linda Lavin's alive.
There you go.
5 years old. Apologies to Linda Lavin.
Yeah.
I didn't realize she was still kicking. Beth Howland, who played Vera, is in fact dead. Flo is 86 years old. She's still alive too.
Good for Flo.
Maybe we could they could book an Alice reunion show with
got enough of them. Yeah.
With Alice and Flo. You got half the cast. I'm sure the kid is still alive. Let's see. Philip McKeon played Tommy. No, he's dead. Died in 2019.
The kid's dead?
No Tommy. The kid's dead.
Oh, man.
The kid's dead. He died at the age of 55.
Man.
All right. I canceled the Alice reunion show.
Shit. Yeah, if you don't have the kid, forget it.
Nah, you don't have the kid. I didn't get the teen kid. I wonder if it was drug related. Let's see. McKeon died in Texas on December 10th, 2019, after a long illness. He was 55. All right, we don't have a lot of details.
All right.
Oh, his sister was Nancy McKeon. That's a nice little trivia. I had no idea that they were related. Nancy McKeon, of course, from Facts of Life. Want to break down Facts of Life now?
Fuck yeah, better than Payback for sure. Let's do it.
Talk about Tootie and
Facts isn't Facts of Life one of those shows that like there's like 17 actors and actresses that ended up becoming huge stars that ended up having like quick little runs on that
Kim
show?
Fields, obviously. Kim Fields and
wasn't Clooney? It was Clooney was on there too, right?
Clooney was like a he came in one of the later seasons as like a maintenance man or some shit like that. So yeah, he was on that show. None of the other, a lot of the girls that were on it hung around for a couple years, but then kind of dropped out of the, Molly Ringwald was on Facts of Life.
Yeah, I do. I watched some Facts of Life. I know my Facts of Life. So
Cloris Leachman replaced Charlotte Rae, but she was already a long time, famous actress. Charlotte Rae, of course, did the gimmick with what you talking about, Willis? What the hell's the name of that show?
Why am I blanking on it?
I'm blanking on it too. What the fuck?
And people are going to go
Strokes.
nuts. Yeah, Different Strokes.
Different
there
Strokes,
you go.
yeah.
We got it.
Yeah, so
Different Strokes. We got it.
Charlotte Rae was the housekeeper on different. I think she may have left one show to go to the other. I don't remember the timeline. But what was Facts of Life was 79 to 88. Nah, they kind of ran at the same time. If it started in 79. Now I need to know why Charlotte Rae.
We must know this.
I have to know. In 78, Different Strokes ran from.
Did they ever give Arnold his own? Did he ever get his own spinoff? Because that's another one that it feels like they probably would have, but hopefully they were smart enough to not.
Who?
Wasn't his name Arnold in the show? Gary Coleman.
Yeah. Well, that was his show, really. Gary Coleman.
Yeah. I just didn't know if they then decided to also once Different Strokes stopped, hey, we're gonna have the Arnold show, and then he's gonna say, "What you talking about, Willis?" But they were smart enough to realize that we don't need that.
Oh, here it is. Okay.
Isn't Facts of Life a spinoff of Different Strokes?
That's it.
Oh, there it is. Yes. Hell
so
yeah.
I knew there was a connection there. So Facts of Life spun off from Different Strokes. And then Cloris Leachman replaced Charlotte Rae on Facts of Life. I guess she got. Let's see why she left at the end.
See, this is when TV was TV, man. When all these things were spinning off and you had crossover episodes and stuff. This is what we're talking about, man.
All right, so she wanted to leave the show to do theater. And then Academy and Emmy Award-winning actress Cloris Leachman was signed as her replacement. So there you go. But yeah, she left Different Strokes for Facts of Life. Then she left Facts of Life and was replaced by Cloris Leachman. That's how it went. Because yeah, they changed the new. They brought in the new housekeeper on Facts of Life. Remember, Edna Garrett was the Mrs. G. She's the more well-known one probably. No, the role was Edna Garrett. So who replaced? Didn't they replace? They brought in another housekeeper, didn't they?
See, I wasn't a big Facts of Life guy, to be honest.
No, Different Strokes.
Oh, Different Strokes.
Yeah.
To
play Mrs. Garrett. Well, I got to know this.
We must. We must. We will get to Payback shortly, people. Do not worry.
Nobody cares about
Nobody
Payback.
cares. You're not going to want to hear our review anyway. Even if you like WWE, you're not going to like our review. And if you hate WWE, you're going to be glad that we're not talking about WWE. So,
okay, Pearl Gallagher was the new housekeeper. So they didn't bring in a new actress. They brought in a new housekeeper.
Just a whole new
character entirely.
All right. Pearl.
Is what I believe they did here.
Nobody's named Pearl anymore. We need to bring back Pearl.
Well, that lady would have been. She that lady was probably born in 1950.
I know. We need to bring Pearls back. I agree.
Oh, remember Dixie Carter was on? Not that Dixie Carter.
Oh,
remember
I was like,
Dixie
what?
Carter was on Different Strokes? No. The
Not that
Designing
Dixie Carter,
Women
though.
Dixie Carter.
Yes.
Designing Women Dixie Carter. Yeah, the actress Dixie Carter. Who was also quite the number in her younger age.
Absolutely.
You know?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Look at Janet Jackson with the recurring role on Different Strokes. I guess after Good Times finished up as Charlene Dupree. Maybe the same. Was that the same character? What was the name of the family on? Let me pull up Good Times.
Yeah.
No, they were the Evans.
Oh,
no. Mike. No, they were the. The Evans family on Good Times, right?
Okay.
They were the Evans family.
I believe so.
James Evans was John Omos was James Evans. Yeah, okay. So one wouldn't be the same character. Janet Jackson played Millicent Penny Woods on Good Times. So different character. Glad we settled that too.
We have. Yes, we have. There is now a nanny discussion going on in the No Dopes chat room as well. So
The Nanny?
Yeah, love that show. Love The Nanny.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, love The Nanny.
Big fan of The Nanny, man.
Oh yeah, big fan of Peak Nanny, no doubt about it.
The nurse, I told her once that she looks a lot like Fran Drescher, and she was upset. And I was like, "That's not a thing to be upset about. That's like an incredibly attractive woman." And then she saw, and I was like, "See, that's not a problem to be looking like The Nanny."
Where she knew what she looked like. That doesn't make sense.
Well, I think she knew what she looked like, but she thought of the voice, and I'm like, no, the voice is fine. The voice is whatever.
I got no problem with the voice.
I like the voice too. You got to be a part. Yeah, you have to be. I'm from Chicago.
All
You're from Jersey.
Hold on.
Like,
Did you do a little fantasy role play with the
you know
nurse?
what? Hey,
Did you have her do the voice? While you're giving it to her, she's doing the nanny rap.
I don't think she could. I don't think she would agree to do the nanny voice.
All right.
She said people used to make fun of her for the voice, but
did you put the little gray poof part in your hair, like Mr. whatever his name was?
Yeah, that guy, the fucking English guy, whatever his fucking name was. I don't know. Who cares? I only watch Fran Drescher. I'm not watching the other guy. Who gives a fuck about the other guy? So,
her boss, the sexual tension guy.
Yeah, the sexual tension guy.
Well, that's the whole point of his character, for the sexual tension.
Oh no, come on. Yeah, no, that was all it was.
Did they eventually fuck at the end of the show and get together? They did,
I want to say they did. Yeah, there was a couple seasons where I think they had gotten together finally. But then it's like all those. It just, once that happens, it's kind of like in Cheers. You're kind of just like, all right, well, that's the end of that.
Maxwell Sheffield is
Maxwell Sheffield. What a name.
Maxwell Sheffield, who was the boss. I think they did. The romantic tension between Maxwell and Fran lasts until the middle of the 5th season when the couple gets engaged. Following several snafus, I can only imagine, Rich, the hilarity that ensues.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
They're finally married in the season 5 finale. See, what you do when the show is on its last legs, to give it that last little bump,
marriage,
you put them together.
Yeah, you get the marriage. Yeah, you get the marriage rating. It happens in wrestling, it happens in TV shows too. The marriage bump always works. Even Friends had to do it. Even Friends is like, all right, we're getting out of the final stretch here. Just fucking have them get married. Fine, just go ahead.
Because you check this out, in season 3, The Nanny was doing a 12.5 rating.
Yeah.
Number 16 show. In season 4, it dropped to a 9.1 rating. So they hooked them up in season 5, 11.5 rating.
Yeah, see? They're geniuses. Those guys,
Yeah.
they sat there with a cigar at this table, these network guys or whatever. One of them sat back and said, let's do it. It's time. You know what I mean? And they all lit their cigars, put their feet up on the table, and it was time, and it worked. It fucking worked perfectly. Kudos to them.
Yeah, and then it falls off the shelf after that.
Yeah, and they know that. They know that. It's just the last gasp. It's the last, all right, guys, let's do this, get our last gasp, and then it's all over. And then it was, and that's fine.
You got to do it. Like Sam and Diane on Cheers, they were like fiery, on again, off again. But then she left the show, and they brought in the brunette. The hell was her name?
Kirstie Alley.
She just died.
Kirstie Alley.
Yeah, they brought in Kirstie Alley. But the thing with the Kirstie Alley, the thing with the dynamic between
they didn't spend enough
Sam
time.
Malone.
There wasn't enough time for the tension.
Well, the thing with Sam and Rebecca was Rebecca didn't have any interest in Sam. Sam was horny for her, but she would always refuse his advances, and he was always unsuccessful trying to fuck her. Because if you remember, Rebecca was horny for that millionaire guy who owned the bar.
Yes.
Played by Tom Skerritt.
Now we're talking.
Remember
I watched a lot of Cheers, man. Now we're talking.
Yeah, the Tom Skerritt's character. I can't remember his name, but she was horny for that guy, and he had no interest in her. And she would always make a buffoon of herself when she was trying to impress the rich Tom Skerritt character, who it's gonna bother me. I hope someone in the chat can remember what his character's name was. But yeah, so that's they never, Sam and Rebecca, they never, I don't think they ever hooked them up. She was grossed
Yeah, I don't
out
remember
by
if they ever actually did it or not.
I mean, he definitely wanted to fuck her because he was a horn dog.
I mean, that guy wanted to fuck anything, yeah.
Yeah. Now, talk about a show you can't do now. I mean, you can't have Sam Malone running around
tossing beers to ladies so he can fuck them.
trying to fuck everybody. It's just
buying alcohol for women at his bar so he could fuck them. No, yeah, that's not gonna work. That's not gonna work.
Well, there's that great scene with Sam and Diane where at the climax of the episode they slap each other like repeatedly for laughs.
Right.
That was played for laughs. Like they get in an argument, one of them slaps the other, then the other slaps the other one back, and then they slap each other, and you're supposed to laugh at that. Like that's funny. It's just completely different culture. It's just it's a shockingly different culture. Now everybody would want both of them in jail. Like if oh my God, how'd they not put those characters in jail? Yeah, I guess we got to do this.
Suppose.
This Vic fucking payback show. All right, I guess start at the top.
Yeah. All right. Well.
All right.
Becky Lynch.
We should ask the chat, more sitcom talk or payback?
They're gonna say more sitcom talk.
They're gonna say more sitcom.
I think I can do a poll. Let me see if I can do a poll here on this. Engage with my audience. Let's engage. Do you want more sitcom talk or for us to review WWE Payback? Right.
All right. So while you're doing that, Maura Johnston coming in big in the clutch. Evan Drake was the Tom Skerritt character.
Evan Drake. Wow. What a great name too. What a great name too.
What a great millionaire name.
It's a perfect guy.
Evan Drake,
millionaire guy that owns a bar. Yeah.
Yeah. Evan Drake. Fantastic. All right. So the poll is up.
The poll's up. I will tell you, sitcom talk is winning 93% right now. So.
It's gonna be a slaughter.
It is falling a bit though. At 90. It's at 90. Yeah. 87. We got the hardcores of has descended here. We'll do another minute or two, and then we'll see where it goes. This guy says, "Talk cheers." We just did. What more cheers do you want out of us?
Did a lot of cheers.
Where'd you show up to the show? We just talked about cheers.
Just did cheers.
How much cheers do you want? I mean,
just did Evan Drake, for God's sake.
Right? Yeah. Like, what do you want us to do? Break down the intricacies of George Wentz? Like, what do you want out of here? Like, the rest of the guys just drink. You know what I mean? Like, the other guys were just alcoholics.
We're doing recurring characters over here. We're not,
right.
You know.
What was Wentz's character? I forget what he was. And Norm.
Yeah.
Norm,
of course.
Yeah, Norm. Like, the rest of the guys don't have any real. The show was all about the sexual tension. The other guys were just, they'd have their little shows here and there, but everybody remembers the.
I think Norm is an iconic television character.
Oh, I agree. I just mean, like, you can't have Norm.
They
talk.
all are.
How are you gonna say
Carla? Come on.
Oh no, she's incredible. Yeah, Rhea Perlman, incredible.
Launched the career of Woody Harrelson. I don't know. I got to disagree with you. Woody Boyd, another, and Cliff Clavin, the know-it-all, the bar know-it-all, who knows nothing. What a great concept for a character. The bar know-it-all who really knows nothing.
Yeah.
Because that's so real.
And then he's the mailman, too, which is another perfect part about it, too.
Yes.
No, they nailed it. They nailed bar culture for sure.
Oh, God, they fucking nailed it. And then even when they were throwing curveballs, like when Coach dies, they replace him with Woody, and then Woody is amazing.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
Right? And then Shelley Long leaves, and they replace Shelley Long with Kirstie Alley, and two drastically different characters. You still need the woman for Sam Malone to play off of, but then that's phenomenal. That show never missed a beat. Even when they had to change cast and all that.
I gotta watch more Cheers again. Well, I did as a kid. I need to go back and watch. Great theme song too. Cheers rocks.
Oh, yeah, just tremendous. It's Pantheon, top 5. Easy.
Got Frasier. I didn't like
top
Frasier,
5
though.
sitcom.
Didn't like Frasier though. Spinoff Frasier.
I didn't like Frasier either. I thought I was not a Frasier guy.
Well, I was also like the age where imagine like me, an 8-year-old who for some reason liked Cheers, watching Frasier, and it's like,
yeah, Frasier.
It's like sniff your own farts bullshit. Get out of here, Frasier. Get the fuck out of here. Thank you. Okay, I'm glad.
Yeah, I was not.
Like, I don't know if as like a 36-year-old I would like Frasier now, but as an 8-year-old I was like, this is the dumbest shit I've ever seen. It's like, oh, I'm so highbrow. And get the fuck out of here. Go away.
They played the sexual attention card too with Daphne and Niles. Remember, like Niles was horny for Daphne.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm not a Frasier watcher. I don't know if they ever fucked. But
yeah, I don't
Niles
care. I don't even care either if they did or not.
He was super horny for Daphne, and then of course their dad, played by the great John Mahoney. I mean, that guy, awesome actor, everything he was in. Like, of course, he was the hard-nosed blue-collar cop, right? To play off of his. How did his sons end up with like British accents? That's what I'd like to know.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't. But or was it?
He was. John Mahoney is. He was frequently seen in the town I lived in before I lived in this current town. When we were first doing the show and I was in the apartment, same town as me. You'd see him all the time, all around. Nobody really stopped him or anything because he's just like, unless you really like honed in on like, hey, I think that's John Mahoney. He just looks like an old white dude. You know what I mean? Like he's not.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't have enough courage to be like, that's John Mahoney. I'm gonna go up and talk to that guy because like, what if he's just like, what? I'm just an old white guy. Like if he wasn't the guy you thought he was and he wasn't identifiable enough. Yeah, you couldn't be positive. You'd be like, I think that's John Mahoney, but like, I don't know. I'm not gonna go up to him for sure. Like if he was in a place, you would know. If it was like a playhouse and he was like getting ready to go on stage, you'd be like, oh, that is clearly John Mahoney. But like just walking the streets of Oak Park, Illinois, you'd have no idea that you were seeing John Mahoney or whatever. So
yeah, and you don't want to make a fool of yourself. It's like I may have told this story before, but when I first moved here, I thought I saw Rip Torn like in a grocery store.
But how can you walk up to a guy and say, "Are you Rip Torn?" Yeah, you can't do that.
Right, and I was like, that can't possibly be Rip Torn in College Station, Texas.
That's a working name, right? What I mean? That can't be a shoot name, right? Rip Torn.
So then I come to find out that he's an A&M grad. It probably was Rip Torn, and I blew my shot.
Damn.
Like he went to A&M in like the 40s or some shit, and like it really was Rip Torn. So I kind of blew that one. But and by the way, real name,
No
Elmore
way.
Raul. Listen,
Okay.
Elmore Raul Rip Torn Jr.
Okay.
Rip Torn.
Is Rip in? Are you looking at the Wikipedia? Is Rip in quotes there?
Of course. It's
That's a working name. Then that's a working name.
That's his nickname.
That's
Real
not
nickname.
That's a working. It's a working name, not a shoot name.
Listen. I don't count that as a working name. His name is Rip Torn. He's known by his family as Rip Torn. I think that's how you differentiate that.
All
right?
All right.
How about he's the son? Check this out. He's the son of Elmore Raul Tiger Torn.
Wow, what a family. Yeah, Jesus Christ.
What a family. You got Tiger Torn and Rip Torn. Now are you on team?
Okay, now I'm in. Yeah, that's a shoot name now.
Okay.
I'm in. Shoot name.
Yeah. So his mom, Thelma Mary Torn, is the aunt of the actress Sissy Spacek.
Whoa, okay.
That connection.
Look at that.
How about that connection? So that means Sissy Spacek and Rip Torn, that would make them cousins, correct?
What do we got here? So you're saying
his mom is her aunt, so they're cousins.
Yes, yeah.
I didn't know that. I also blew my opportunity.
How would you know that? Why would you know that? Why would you know that off the top of your head that Rip Torn is cousins with Sissy Spacek?
That's a good point. I don't know why I know it. I'm just telling you I didn't know it. I also know I blew my opportunity to give a firm handshake to Rip Torn in like 2010. But you got to cut me a break. Why would I think he would be here?
Yeah, it's too and that's I hate. I am very well. First off, I'm that way usually with celebrities, so it's like I wasn't going to go up to John Mahoney anyway and be like, "Hey, what's up, man?" You know what I mean? Like I wasn't going to do that, but I just don't like doing that with. I don't like doing that with people I think I recognize from like high school because like, what if it's not that guy? The idea of walking up to somebody and being like, "Hey, Joey," and then being like, "Who?" and I'm like, "Oh my god!" Like wherever I'm at, I have to leave. I can't stay in the place I'm at.
Our chat has never been more on fire than it
So
is
we did
right
do
now.
this more. Yeah, fuck wrestling.
This is incredible. This sitcom talk just has people all fired up.
The 72% on these sitcom talks. So it is plummeting, but not enough to make me stop and talk about Becky Lynch and Trish Stratus in a cage.
There's someone in the chat by the name of Sydney Hickenbottom.
Mm-hmm. That's a working name. That's a working name for sure.
Name.
Yes.
There's no way that's a legitimate Hickenbottom, right? That's a
that's a working name. That's a working Hickenbottom right there.
The name Sydney Hickenbottom, gotta be. Look at this chat blowing up.
It's incredible.
What are the results of it? Let me vote on the poll.
Yeah, because it's at 72 right now.
Yeah, 73% sitcom talk.
There it is. You put it 73. I think it's
Now we're getting requests.
Right? Yeah, do you guys like Spin City? Yeah, not that much. I don't really like Spin City that much.
Easy. Yeah, take it easy.
Yeah, I don't really
not a big Spin City guy. It was all right.
I can't do
Charlie Sheen. Charlie Sheen replace Fox when he got too shaky?
Yeah. Final couple episodes, or final couple
Fox
seasons,
got
I should say.
a little too shaky there. They had to switch him out. But the thing is, Curb brought Fox in when he was real shaky.
Yeah, you just got to own it. It's fine.
Well, Larry did. He wrote the story around him being shaky,
right.
Which is just, you got a shaky guy. You're going to want to write a story about him being shaky.
Yeah, right.
Now Family Ties. I love me some Family Ties, but I put on. You were talking before about like the Pluto channels or whatever.
There's just dumb channels, Pluto and
So I found
Zumo
a Family
and
Ties channel. Yeah, so I'm watching Family Ties just like for 10 hours or something.
as one does, yes.
And I'm watching Family Ties, and my wife had never seen Family Ties, and so I'm telling her all about Justine Bateman and how she's Bateman's sister, because she's obviously everyone's familiar with her brother, and she's like, oh, that's interesting, and young Michael J. Fox, and you know what my wife hit me with? She hit me with, the dad on this show is hot.
Whoa.
That really took me back. I'm like, what?
With the beard and the gray hair and stuff?
Yes, Michael
Interesting.
Gross.
Grow a beard, Joe. Get gray. Yeah.
I have a beard. Michael Gross. She's like, the dad on this show is hot. I was like, I have never heard anyone say that the dad from Family Ties
is hot. Yeah.
I wasn't bothered by it, but I was fascinated by it.
Yeah, he's not a traditionally attractive man in any way, shape, or form.
You know what it is, though? She loves the hint of gray.
The salt and pepper? Yeah.
She loves the hint of gray.
Well,
like, I complain.
Should be a big
about
fan
the
of me
hint
right now,
gray.
man. I got too much gray right now. So
I'm saying, like, I'll complain about the hint. I'll be like stroking it on my beard. I'm like, this hint of gray. She's like, oh no, do not fuck with that hint of gray. I'm like, I do what you tell me.
yes, ma'am.
Yes, until the action starts, then you do what I tell you. But Michael Gross from Family Ties, that was a new one to me.
That's I don't know how many people are attracted to him, but yeah, good. Maybe. I don't know. I wasn't around at the time. Maybe that was a thing. That could have been a thing. There's no way.
I don't think it's a thing.
There's no way that was a thing. Yeah.
And it's I don't know. It's a weird one.
Was he ever on what was it? Who was the sexiest man alive? Who did that? I forget what. What operation would do the sexiest man alive thing? People, is that
People
okay?
Magazine?
Yeah.
You
think he was ever on the sexiest man alive?
Never. Michael Gross from Family Ties?
Michael Gross from Family Ties was not even like, it wasn't like 88th or something like that. You don't think he was anywhere? So
the thing about it is, I was so interested in it because he's kind of portrayed as a dork on the show, too. He's like this nerdy ex-hippie, and Alex P. Keaton is always riffing on him, and he's not presented as like cool or sexy at all. So I had a lot of questions about it, but then she just got frustrated and left the room. So I didn't really get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know how I can be sometimes. You just have to leave the room.
I know how you can be. Yes, I'm aware.
So she was like, I don't want to talk about this anymore. I just think he's hot. And then she just left.
Because you were just like, why? Why do you think he's hot? Tell me everything.
Yeah, I was curious. I was trying to get to the bottom of the psychology.
Yeah, what is it? What is about him? Is it the nerdiness? Is the salt and pepper? Is it the fact that he's the man of the household, or what is it? Tell me. I gotta know.
Yeah, I just, and to her, she didn't put that much thought into it. She just thinks he looks good, I guess. I don't know. And she got mad and she left the room. But because I've never heard anyone describe the dad from Family Ties as someone they want to bone.
Yeah.
I've never heard that before in my life. If anyone in the chat wants to, say that they too find Stephen Keaton attractive, I'll concede defeat here. But I don't think that's going to happen. We talk about sexual tension, and then as a last gasp effort, throwing people together to pop a last number. Family Ties did the thing where they added a child to try to revive
the worst.
Things.
Yeah, the worst gimmick.
Remember Brian Bonzell as Andy Keaton?
The worst gimmick. It didn't work for the Von Erichs in World Class, and it did not work for Family Ties either, baby. No, you can't add.
And they always
a family.
age them like you'll come back from last season and they're like 4 years older instead of a year older.
Yeah,
they always do that gimmick too. Like, wait a minute, that was a baby and now they're 6. How did that happen? That's always the case too. Like, what was the Alan Thicke gimmick? What was his show?
Not Step by Step, right? No, Step by no, right, no. Who was Alan Thicke's thing?
Growing Pains.
Growing Pains. Yes.
Growing Pains added a whole ass teenager when they put DiCaprio on it.
Like halfway through, they're like, "Hey Tim," or I forget what the kid's name was, but it was fucking ridiculous. Yeah,
he's like a runaway or something.
Yeah,
they're like, we're adding a fucking teenager. So
we can't
really
be doing
all
this.
Out. No, utterly ridiculous. To just throw a fucking 15-year-old into the family. It's did you notice on Growing Pains, the names of the neighbor families were all former Mets pitchers, the Kuzmans, and they were the Seavers. The family on the show was the Seavers. Their neighbors were the Kuzmans. There was a lot of someone there was a Mets fan.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah, I guess I never really. Miracle Mets, right? 69 Miracle Mets, right?
It got to be, because there were other examples too where random last names of people would be like old Mets players on that show. And of course, Kirk Cameron, Mike Seaver, his best friend, his name was Boner. I always got a kick out of that when I was like 10.
Boner.
Boner's coming. Yeah, Boner. I'm like, wow, that's risque. I can't believe they're saying Boner on TV. I was like, Boner, I get those. That's funny, when I'm like 10 years old. But it's Growing Pains. Are they still doing look at his chat. I have never seen this chat.
It's incredible. Fast. Wrestling is
Why do we
stupid.
even do a wrestling
I don't
show?
know.
Why?
I don't know.
Why? This is ridiculous. We should just convert. Like, we don't even like wrestling anyway. Why don't we do
stinks. Yeah, it mostly stinks. So.
We should just do a 3-hour banter show. That should be what we do. That's it. This is no longer a wrestling podcast. I have declared
it's over. Yeah.
This ain't no wrestling podcast. Boner's dead. Someone says Boner's dead. Boner's the bone.
Find out if Boner is dead. Find out if Boner is dead.
Let's confirm this. His name was. I didn't know his last name was Stabone. Boner Stabone.
Boner Stabone. Yeah, well, that's a good. I'd call a guy named Stabone Boner. Yeah, that's a good name.
Richard Milhouse Boner Stabone. He left to join the Navy, played by Andrew Koenig. He is in fact dead. He died in 2010.
Oh man. Oh, it looks
Boner
like it wasn't good.
Dead.
Wasn't good. So looks like he.
What the fuck? I didn't know Boner was dead. Koenig was last seen in British Columbia.
Yeah, don't read the whole. It doesn't. It's not good.
He missed his scheduled flight on February 16th, was the last day he used his cell phone or conducted any banking. On February 25th, a group of friends and family found him dead in Vancouver's Stanley Park. He had apparently hanged himself. All right, well, that's not fun.
No, I told you it wasn't fun. I said stop. I told you to stop.
Boner.
Yeah, R.I.P. Boner. Patrick Duffy was Step by Step. I apologize for getting that wrong.
Correct. With Suzanne Summers.
Oh, A+ Suzanne Summers, by the way.
Big fan of that?
Oh,
Big fan of that?
Oh, yeah.
You
Absolutely.
Like
Absolutely.
Yeah. You like her better as the MILF on Step by Step in the 90s, or you like her better in her 20s on Three's Company?
You know me, man. I like the MILF.
Well, you're
I
age
think she's
too.
hotter as the MILF. I think it's also because people in the 90s were just hotter. Yeah, people in the 90s were just hotter. The straight hair and the, more than willing to show the voluptuous press, or you know what I mean? Like, yeah, she was. I think she made it work in the 90s.
Yeah, late 70s style. Nobody looked hot.
Yeah, right. Because you look at her and you're like, I guess she's like, she should be hot because she was hot in the 90s, and now she is 20 years younger or whatever. But it just didn't.
The hair, the clothes, none of it's good.
Yeah, but as the hot ass mom in Step by Step, absolutely. Way too many kids, by the way. I forgot how many children were in this show. What the fuck?
Yeah, it was a dumb Brady Bunch ripoff.
Yeah,
is what it was.
Awful show.
It was just a total ripoff of the Brady. Speaking of Three's Company,
I didn't speak of Three's Company. Who said anything about Three's Company?
We did. Suzanne Summers.
Oh,
Three's
right.
Company.
You did. Go ahead.
Jack Tripper. John Ritter, of course. His best friend on that show, right?
John Ritter's best friend.
There's a wrestling connection here. So, his best friend, played by the great Richard Klein, Larry Dallas, was his best friend.
That's where the name has to come from, right?
Well, I mean, come on.
I hate to say this, but is that a working name or a shoot name from one Larry? I've only called him Larry. I don't know if that's actually his name, but
there are a lot of similarities between Larry Dallas and Three's Company and Larry Dallas, our pal from AAA.
Yeah.
Okay. A lot of similarities there. Larry Dallas is, again, a legendary sitcom character. Total sleazeball, hanging down at the Regal Beagle with Tripper, hitting on the ladies. That was loved the Larry Dallas. But did you prefer the Don Knotts, Mr. Furley episodes, or did you prefer?
See, you're out of my league now. I don't. Yeah. I wasn't.
Okay, well, you're out of your depth here.
Yeah, I can't do. I could speak very, very definitively about 90s and late 80s ones. Three's Company's a little too.
See, I preferred the Ropers. Norman Fell, who again, tremendous actor, and their gimmick was they were the landlords. The Ropers were the first landlords. Okay, it was Stanley and Helen Roper. And they were like in their early 60s or whatever. And she was horny for him, and he never wanted to fuck her. It was like the Al Bundy dynamic.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? So he had like the horny wife, and he was like, I'm over it. I haven't fucked since the fucking, World War II or whatever the fuck. And the Roper, and then then Norman Fell had a contract dispute with the show. So to solve that, they switched gears and they brought in Don Knotts as the new landlord, Mr. Furley. I prefer the Roper seasons of Three's Company to the Furley seasons of Three's Company. Rich obviously is not familiar enough.
No, I gotta back out here. Yeah, I gotta back out.
The chat
there was a Roper
agree.
spinoff. Yeah, people are with you. People are with you on the Ropers.
Roper over Furley. Yeah, Roper over Furley. Furley was too cartoonish for me. He He was too sports entertainment for my liking. I preferred the Ropers. And they did have a spinoff, the Ropers. It didn't last, but it was funny as hell. That only had a couple episodes. Someone said, "Isn't Alan Thicke from what were we just talking about?"
What about Alan Thicke?
Yeah, he
yeah.
Yeah, he's dead.
Yeah,
He died playing hockey.
Is that true? Wow. Well, hey, if you know what, he's a Canadian legend. That's probably how you should go, right?
He died, I believe, playing a pickup hockey game.
There's no better way for a man from Canada to die, though. That's perfect.
Let me confirm this. On December 13th, 2016, Thicke collapsed while playing ice hockey with his son Carter in Burbank, California. How about that?
Wow.
The manager of the rink. The word rink always throws me off.
Rink, yeah.
The manager of the rink said he was talking and even joked to his son to take a photo as he was being wheeled out on a stretcher. Oh, my God. Thicke died later that day of type A aortic dissection at the blah, blah hospital at the age of 69. Nice. On December 19th, 2016, the cast of... I just niced the man's death. On December 19th, 2016, the cast of Growing Pains, including Leonardo DiCaprio, reunited at Thicke's funeral. A eulogy was given by his friend Bob Saget, also dead, and his son Robin offered a humorous remembrance. Yeah, Robin Thicke had that. Isn't he a one-hit wonder? What was the Robin
he
Thicke
had
hits?
the something about taking your clothes off or some shit. I forget
that
what the
song
name of
is
the song
canceled,
was.
isn't it? That song got
Blurred
canceled.
Lines. Yeah, Blurred Lines. I believe that is
Blurred
indeed
Lines,
a canceled.
yes,
yeah.
that song is fucking canceled, Rich.
Yeah.
Blurred Lines. Blurred Lines, even the title, but I mean, Blurred Lines is fucking canceled.
I want to say Robin might be canceled too. I forget, but
probably.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah, that's canceled, and Baby It's Cold Outside is fucking canceled.
You can't do it anymore. Can't do it.
You know what though? People have fought back on that. I hear it every year.
There has been there definitely has been
a lot of people are like, you know what? Fuck you. We're not canceling everything. It's a timeless tune, and we're playing it anyway. So people have took a stand on that one. But yeah, I do think that Robin Thicke song is canceled. So, all right, I guess we got to do Vic Payback at some point.
At some point, we got to do Payback, yeah.
And upset the chat here.
Yeah, sorry to the 74% of you that wanted sitcom talk. You got an hour of it, so to be fair, which is pretty damn good. One of these days, we'll get the full on banter show. This is pretty close. This was a very close week to it. I won't lie. Other than the Sheik Adnan Al-Kaissy, there's a very good chance we could have gone 2 more hours with the banter talk. But let's talk about this Payback show. Yeah. It's on Saturday. It was a WWE Premium Live event. It's over. Started out with Becky Lynch and Trish Stratus in a cage. They tried kind of hard. Wasn't very good. I don't know. They tried hard.
I don't know. People dig that cage match.
Okay.
All right, look. Here's my problem with that match. I watched Payback after I watched All Out.
Oh, so, I did too. But I gave it like 2 days. How long did you give?
Like a day or two, yeah. So
yeah,
after
tough.
You watch Bryan Danielson and Ricky Starks in that strap match,
it's hard. Yeah.
And after you watch like Mox beat the fucking living snot out of Orange Cassidy, and you watch these people bleed all over the place and have all this great intensity, it's really hard to transition to a WWE style match like this where, you know, Lynch and Stratus did try to work this in an intense way. And a lot of people feel like they were trying to bleed hard way with some of the cage shots and stuff. And
okay, because they did they cut up their heads pretty badly, or not like there was like a bruises. There was a lot of bruises on both of them when the match was done.
But
just cut yourself. Jesus Christ, just cut your. This is like the Brock thing. Where they would spend years being like, all right, we need to get color, so instead of blading, we'll have Brock slice your eyebrow with his elbow. It's like, fucking grab a knife and blade. What are we doing here?
Yeah, but the thing is, the company doesn't want blood at all.
I know. Well, they got it later in the night, so.
They did, and they cleaned them all up and patched them up, and I hate when they do that. So, and I believe that Lynch is the kind of wrestler who would try to go hard way and add to her match. But the thing about it is, I thought it was a good match. It did hurt trying to watch it after All Out because it can't compare with anything on that show. But the whole candy-coated WWE environment just takes me right out of matches like this. I understand they tried to make it intense, but you just can't. You can't. And that's what we talked about when we did the instant reaction for All Out. Or All In. No, All Out. WWE is not capable of doing a show that good in the same ways that show was
No, they
good.
just can't. They just
can't do it.
Yeah, they're not set up to do it.
No, it's too, like I said, candy-coated is the phrase I keep coming back to. There's this veneer of bullshit that surrounds WWE that prevents them from doing a show that good. And they definitely can't do a show that good in the same way that it was good. And this match is a perfect example because they couldn't get any more intense than they got. And they
worked their ass off, too. They worked their ass off here.
But at the end of the day, it came up short for me because of everything I saw on the show, the next night that I watched before I watched this show. So if I had watched this cage match before All Out, I probably would have liked it a little better. But there's still that WWE thing around it where it's like, I don't know. It all feels like bullshit in this company. Whereas in AEW, when an AEW match lands, like those two matches I mentioned, it doesn't feel like bullshit. It feels like old school, super intense hatred pro wrestling. And, there's nothing they can do in WWE to make their matches like this feel like that for me. So I was not nearly as high on this match as other people were. I will say this. I did think it was the best match on the show. And that might be controversial.
I would agree. No, I would agree.
Okay. All right.
Well, I would agree.
Then we're both gonna rip the tag match that everybody loved, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. That was gonna be my hot take, is that I agree that this one was the it was they worked really hard. They worked really, really hard. It's just like you said, there's a veneer about everything that they do in that company that, in another company, they could get brutal. They could bleed. They could really take this thing up a notch. But instead, everything's got to be kind of done, and especially WWE cage matches. This was brutal. This was brutal in a lot of the right ways. And I give them a ton of credit. I'll give Trish Stratus a ton of credit as well for having a match like this when she absolutely does not need to. I see why Becky Lynch is still obviously trying to have matches like this, but because she's an active competitor, but there's no reason for Trish to have to go out there and bust her ass like she did here, but she absolutely did. So I'll give her all the credit in the world for doing that. But at the end of the day, it's like, I feel like most WWE stuff, at least for me, has a certain ceiling that no matter how hard you work, and this is a good example of it, no matter how hard you work, no matter how hard it just feels, I don't know. I have no passion for it, and I just don't feel the same energy that some people feel. So it kind of sucks when a match like this ends, and I'm like, that was fine. And I move on.
You know what it is? Here's the word we've been missing. There's no authenticity to it.
No.
That's the problem. There's nothing they do in this company that feels like there's no gritty, raw authenticity to any of these matches.
Right. Ricky and Bryan Danielson slapping each other, but instead of using their hands, they're using a strap.
Yeah, and you just feel the hatred in a match like that. And you'd never feel it in the WWE matches. It always comes across like they're just making a TV show about wrestling. So that's the barrier with a match like this, which prevents it from me thinking it's great. LA Knight and The Miz with the guest ref. This Cena Miz stuff before the match was infuriating. I wanted to turn. I'm like, this is exactly why I don't watch. I can't get into this company.
They have Grayson Waller now. They finally are using Grayson Waller the way that we said that they should use him for 2 years as the replacement level Miz. But then they still have the fucking Miz hanging around going, when my hand goes up, your hand goes down. I main evented WrestleMania. I was the... It's okay. We've done the same promo for 7 years now. Can we please move on? Can we please do something else other than the Miz? I'm begging them. No more Miz. Come on.
It's just corny.
It's just so bad, too. Corny. Yeah.
And, LA Knight's over, but man, are his matches.
Oh, they stink. Once that bell rings, it's over. But in this company, it doesn't matter.
He's a nothing.
It doesn't matter.
Nothing. This this company doesn't matter.
No, nothing in this company matters. Speaking of not mattering, so John Cena was a special. Sorry, go ahead. We're having some connection issues here. I was gonna say
I'm gonna dip out. I'm dipping out and coming back.
All right, Joe's dipping out, coming back. I'll wait for this line because I think Joe is gonna like when I give him this line. So I'm gonna wait a minute until we talk about that. But yeah, obviously for this match, you had The Miz and John Cena doing a very, very large, long, dreadful promo segment for a little while until then you get then you get The Miz and John Cena do this long promo segment back and forth. Nothing good is happening. It's just a bad segment. Miz is doing all the same shit he always does. Then LA Knight comes out like the fucking god that he is to these people. And yeah, the problem that you're going to run into at some point with this, Joe, you are back, correct?
Back.
You're back. Okay. So I'm just saying, yeah, the point, the LA Knight thing, I don't know if it matters that he sucks. And I don't know if it is going to matter that he sucks. I don't know. This is we're in this weird stage with this company where for right now, it doesn't matter if you can wrestle as long as you have a catchphrase or are doing something and have a good theme song the crowd is going to love. So I don't know what we're at. I don't know if this worm is going to turn ever and people are going to go, okay, but yeah, when are we going to get the good, when is he going to actually deliver bell to bell? And maybe it doesn't matter. I don't know. This is going to be the next year is going to be fascinating for this guy. Because is he just another Zack Ryder? Is he just another thing where people are kind of into for right now? Oh, yeah, the catchphrase and all that sort of stuff. And then they're going to get sick of it and then they're going to move on. Or is this thing going to last? Like, I don't know. It's so weird because he just does not have the chops to work like the main event level of work. But then again, I don't know if that matters anymore. Maybe he does.
Well, people like to say, yeah.
Yeah, all the time. On AEW shows too. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's I want to say that there's still a working standard at the top of the card.
I'd like to think there is as well.
But I'm thinking about it and I just keep thinking about Dominic, but the thing with Dominic is I still think some of that is ironic.
Right. And they've kept him at a certain, if you've noticed, he was as hot as ever a couple of months ago. They never, you know what I mean? They still kind of had him in a slot. Like he never got above that slot.
They know he can't go. They know he's like the worst guy on the main roster. And
I think they know this about LA Knight too. And I think they're kind of towing that line a little bit too.
Hedging a little.
Like, yeah. I think so.
Well, they had Cena endorse him at the end of this.
I love that they're going to get over this 41-year-old guy. It's like, you want new stars? Here you go, LA Knight. It's like, all right.
Yeah. I mean, his matches really are just nothing.
They're not good.
They're 2-star specials. They're just.
Well, we knew this. I mean, the guy's been doing this thing for 10 years now. Anybody who watches the wrestling world knows what this guy is. So it's like, yeah, for some people being like, hey, have you seen this LA Knight guy? Like, yeah, yeah, a lot of times.
Actually, in fact, Eli Drake.
Yeah,
yes, I have seen LA Knight for years and years. Yes.
Yes, I'm well aware of LA Knights down to the he was doing that forever.
Yeah.
But
Dummy, yeah.
Yeah, Dummy, yeah. Who doesn't remember Dummy, yeah? But
the same hand gesture too.
Yeah, exactly.
Eli Drake.
I'm doing it. I'm doing it right there. I did it right with you.
Yeah, I'm doing it too. Do you know what else I do? I'm gonna tell you something else I do. I do the dance that Prince Nana does during Swerve's entrance theme.
It's a good gimmick, yeah.
I do that dance, the Prince Nana dance.
Are you playing the song or are you just dancing? You're just dancing.
I do it while Nana's doing it during Swerve's entrance.
Got it.
Like,
okay.
While Nana, he does the side to side like he's swerving in a car.
Yeah,
right?
Yep.
And he does the side to side. Then he puts one hand on the belt and he swings the other hand like a lasso, like he mixes in that move. And I do it with Prince Nana. I do that in my living room.
What's good is it's like he's not good at it either. It's like a bad dance, so that you can do it. Anybody can do it.
Excuse me, sir. You're assuming I'm not good at it. That's
no. I think it's not a very good dance, and that anybody can do it. Is what I'm saying.
You said he's not good at it either, implying that I am not good at that dance. Let me tell you something. when I listen, Cameo reached back out to me after rejecting me several years ago. For $100 USD, I will do that Nana dance. On
Drop
camera.
that link. Drop that link.
For $100 USD, I will do the Nana dance and play the Swerve song and prove that I'm good at that dance. I will do it. That is my rate, though. Anyway, enough of that.
Well,
Rey Mysterio.
No. Hold on. One more thing I got to talk about. You said not mattering, and I went, and we had connection issues. Speaking of not mattering, John Cena is the special guest referee here, and he's doing nothing. It's just he's completely irrelevant to the match. And Corey Graves says, I don't like Corey Graves at all. I hate him. He's a fucking awful announcer. I don't know who was in his ear for this one. I don't know if he gave this one on his own. An amazing burial of John Cena here. A subtle burial, but enough here, where he goes, you know something, Cole? The old adage is the best referees are the ones you don't notice. And I can barely tell that John Cena's been a part of this match. And I was like, yes.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't doing it. He was walking in and going, 1, 2, 2. And then leaving it. It's like, I think we need a little more energy out of you, Cena. I think you're here for a reason. And he's just and then they started doing angles where it was like, oh, they almost hit John. Oh, wait a minute. Miz is going to hit him. Wait a minute. LA Knight's going to hit him.
John would ball up his fist.
Right.
Because, you're always ready.
But there was a large part of the match where he would just come in, and this match was way too long, too. It did not need to be 16 minutes. What are we doing here? LA Knight and The Miz. But, there was long portions of the match where they're just doing boring wrestling, and John Cena would just come in there and be like, you give up? No. It's just he's just being a normal referee. And it's I don't know. I think we need a little more juice here. But I guess it's hard to be juicy.
The thing about it is LA Knight, it just isn't very good.
Right.
And and in all seriousness, that might be a barrier for him. The guy can't go. The chat cleared out when we stopped talking.
It really did. Yeah, it really did.
This is a funny one, though. Lee Connell in the chat says he was in the crowd at Dynamite and told Nana to go back to Ghana. And then I was super worried that people around me that don't know ROH would think I was racist. That's a good point.
That is a good one. Yeah.
It occurred to him after the words tumbled out of his mouth. They're like, oh boy. Not get that.
Yeah, the old school embassy people, the people throwing, toilet paper at Jimmy Rave, they would laugh about that. But yeah, your right. Other, the other people at Dynamite, yeah, they probably would not.
Yeah.
I know what you mean, but yeah, guy next to you, in his Orange Cassidy shirt doesn't know what you mean at all.
Right. Yeah, that was a legitimate concern.
Yeah, that's a yikes right there.
At the Dynamite in Saskatoon that he attended a few weeks ago. Next up was Rey Mysterio versus Austin Theory. Now, God, this was a nothing match.
If you can't have a passable, even a remotely passable match with Rey Mysterio, just fucking, you're done, man.
I want to talk about Austin Theory because I thought he obviously got pushed too much too soon in Evolve, but Gabe saw that there was a lot of potential there, and he took a lot of criticism because the Evolve roster was really stacked at that time, and this was a 20-year-old kid who really wasn't at that level. But I thought he got better, while he was there, and eventually the push did take and all those things. And he comes to NXT, and I thought there was a period during NXT when he looked really great and really looked like someone who was going to be a top level guy in the ring and possibly star as well. Comes to the main roster. Vince loves him, so he's got the Vince stamp of approval. And obviously the discourse around him is weird because he has the kind of the speaking out thing. So some people are never going to be fair. This guy could be, a super worker, and there's a lot of people who just, they're not going to like him and they're not going to be fair about his work. And so he's one of those guys where the discourse gets a little weird because of that, because people hate him as a person. But the thing about it is, he clearly has regressed. I mean, there's no question about it.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's because they have beaten the confidence out of him, or they're deliberately telling him to work in a way that doesn't suit his skill set. I don't know what the fuck it is, but there is no question that this guy has slowly regressed before our eyes to the point now where he's not even a jag. He's below that.
No, he's
I don't
bad.
know what the fuck
I don't know what happened. He was a guy who came in, like you said, as kind of a jag, but then sort of had to live up to the standard that was going on in the Indies at that time and Evolve at that time or whatever. And then slowly, he didn't get there. He wasn't there, but he got good. He got passable, I should say. He got decent enough. And then, like you said, in NXT, it was like, okay, they were right. Gabe was right. Vince was right. Everybody was right to put as much stock as possible in this guy. And Vince loved this guy from day one, by the way, even when he was in Evolve. And people that do not know, I mean, like, he was in Evolve and Vince and Triple H wanted him like right away. And Gabe was like, no, he's not ready. He's not ready. Let me have him for. This is when they were obviously friendly and on good terms or whatever. Yeah. But Vince Triple H wanted to sign him right away. And for all intents and purposes kind of said, hey, we're going to sign you, kid. But then Gabe's, sort of like he would do later, officially just kind of said like, no, let me keep this guy, please. Like, I can make this guy into something. Trust me, I can. And he kind of did. He kind of did make him into something. And then NXT happened, and then you were like, all right, yeah, this guy might, but now I don't know what it is. He's bad. He's just brutal.
Yeah. So there's something going on there. Look, Ray at this stage isn't exactly my favorite worker either. I've had enough of Ray. I've had enough of Ray for a number of years now. I've seen enough of Ray. I love Ray's shit for many decades. I wouldn't mind never watching him wrestle again. I don't need any more Ray in my life. But it was shocking how much of a nothing match this really was. And it's theory, no question, is moving backwards. So I don't know. It's weird. I don't know what's going on with him. And I don't know if at some point they kind of pull the plug. I don't know.
Yeah, he seemed like a Vince pet project for a while, and now it's like I don't really know what we're doing here with this guy.
So I don't even know if it's just the Vince thing. And
he's 26 too. He should be getting significantly better over these next couple of years. You know what I mean?
Going the wrong direction,
right? At 26, you should really start getting good. You know what I mean? Like really getting good. And I don't think he's gonna get there.
So this tag match.
Should we talk about Cody on the Grayson Waller effect? I believe this happened in between this as well.
So. Yeah, we should, I guess.
So replacement level Miz came out and made fun of local sports team. And then
replacement level Miz.
Well,
Skip Schumacher Miz came out.
Right. And then, made fun of local dialects and local sports teams or whatever. And then where the hell were they even? I don't even remember where the fuck this thing was. Oh, Pittsburgh. And then made fun of the Steelers and made fun of Primanti Brothers or whatever the fuck he made fun of. I don't even remember what it was, but it was enough to, the Pirates stink. The Steelers are
Grayson
bad.
Waller. Oi.
Yeah.
You put fries on your sandwiches. Boy.
Yeah. Put chips on your sandwiches. What are you doing?
Boy.
Just terrible stuff, but it's exactly what they need, exactly what they want, which was ridiculous because Miz did the exact same thing like an hour before. It was like, the Steelers suck, so don't talk when I'm talking or whatever. And it was like, oh my God, what are we doing? Why are we still doing local sports team shit? God.
I like the cheap heat, but
one guy could do the cheap heat thing on a show, right? You can't have the Miz.
It's got to be smart too. I don't know, like you're gonna pick on the Pirates, like what is that?
Right, that's what I'm saying. They just do like insert local sports team here, like and this team they don't know any winners because they're in Pittsburgh or whatever. It's like I don't know, like yeah, you know what I mean? Like it's just
titles.
Yeah, it's just you know what I mean. It's like the lowest hanging fruit stuff. I agree. If you want to be fun with it, MJF always is good about it. The Acclaimed are sometimes good about it. Like that sort of stuff works. But yeah, I think just doing like lowbrow. The Pirates. It's just like that doesn't. Yeah.
Have they heard of Mario Lemieux?
Right. Well,
how about Terry Bradshaw? He's got 4 of them. The We Are Family Pirates. I mean,
Dave Parker. The Miz doesn't know anything about Dave Parker. You're right.
Seriously, what's he know about Willie Stargell or Manny Sanguian? Probably not much.
No.
But it's like that's not really a great city to bang on for having a bad sports history. Right.
I agree. Yeah. And then we're like, oh, the Steelers, they're not going to do anything this year. And it's like, I don't know. We'll see. We don't know. They might. The season hasn't started yet.
Depends how Pickett shakes out. Kenny Pickett.
Yeah. But you can't say that in the promo. That's not good. But anyway, so Grayson Waller.
Their coach has never had a losing season. And Tomlin has never had a losing season.
Is that true? Wow.
That's true. How do you walk into a city and make fun of the football team when the coach has been there 20 years and he's never had a losing record? You don't have much to work with. Rich is looking it up. He doesn't believe me.
No, I'm sure you're true. I don't even care. I don't care enough. Yeah, Mike Tomlin. I can't believe he's still there. Yeah, he's been around there for a while.
I host the NFL Intelligentsia.
Right,
Don't
so you should
ever
know
question my facts.
Yeah, you should know that. So
don't ever question me.
Anyway, Grayson Waller makes fun of local sports team. Insert local sports team here. Cody then is his guest, and Cody endorses local sports team, and then kind of sits there. They make side eyes at one another. Grayson Waller says, "Hey, you won a lot of your career's been good, and then it's been bad, and then you lost at WrestleMania. You couldn't finish the story." And then Cody goes, yeah, and then just kind of announces that Jey Uso is on Raw now. Cool.
Well, then Waller gets super kicked too.
Yeah, great. The crowd goes nuts for Jey Uso on Raw. It's like, all right, cool. He's gone for a week. They're like, oh my God, Jey Uso's on Raw. I can't believe it. I'm like, who are these people? They cut to guys with their hands on their head, like adult men with their hands on their head, going, I can't believe it. Jey Uso's on Raw. Like, who are these people? Like, I know how
men have mortgages and families,
right?
And they're excited about Jey Uso on Raw,
like excited and shocked, like, oh my God, are you kidding me?
The brand split, Rich. They believe in it.
They believe in the brand split. You know how you always make that reference. You always say, like, I don't know who these people are, but I and you always say, I hate to say this, but these people are probably just not intelligent people, or just whatever. They're. But yeah, and then they cut to that guy, and it's like, yeah, it's the exact guy I know you're talking about. He's like a 35-year-old guy, hands on head, like, it's like, really?
Looks like a nice guy.
Right. I don't know nothing about this guy. I'm sure like you said,
a normal guy.
I bet he's got a dog. I bet he's got a mortgage. He's probably got 2 kids. You know, he told the wife.
Sells insurance or something.
Right. He's like a good insurance broker. He's like, honey, I'm going to the PPG Paint Arena or whatever to watch, Payback.
To enjoy some Payback.
Right.
Absolutely.
And then, he's here for the Grayson Waller effect, hand on chin, like, I wonder where this is going. And then, day one, day one comes out. And he's just like, what? His mind's blown.
Oh, my God.
Right.
Jey Uso didn't really quit.
He's now on Raw. It's like,
what? He's doing fantasy matchups in his head.
Yeah, he's like, oh, God.
Raw superstars, right?
Right.
Because he calls them superstars.
Yeah, right. He's like, oh, my God, Chad Gable and Jey Uso.
Oh, the possibilities are endless. Oh, my God. Jey Uso on Raw? Oh, hands on the head. Couldn't wait to get home and tell the wife, who does not care.
Right. Yeah.
The wife
trying to put the babies to bed. He walks in, the baby wakes up or whatever, because he opened the door because the dog started barking, and then the baby woke up. She's like, what? He's like, you're not gonna believe it, honey. Sit down. And she's trying to rock the baby back to sleep or whatever.
Which I can relate to. Like, I'll bust into a room and be like, Brittany, Ellie hit for the cycle. She'll be like, that's nice, honey. She don't care. She don't know what that means.
No.
That's like this guy. He runs home to say, you're never going to believe this. Jey Uso's on Raw. That's nice, honey. That's great. But it looks like just a normal
He's going to be able
guy.
to wrestle Judgment Day. He's going to be able to be him and Damian Priest. I can't wait. It's like
Yeah. He probably bangs his wife twice a week like the rest of us. Just a normal guy living life, paying his bills. Right? Probably drives a Mazda. And here he is, all excited about Jey Uso on Raw. Who are these people?
I don't know.
It's crazy.
They exist. They exist. They're out there. I don't know. I don't get it.
This Sunday, he's going to settle down with his terrible towel, watch a little Steelers 49ers.
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah.
Maybe a bowl of chips. Got to have the bowl of chips. Maybe a sandwich with the fries on it. And he's just, but yet he's excited
his Yingling,
about
his bottle of
Jey
Yingling.
Uso on
He's going to
Raw.
crack open a bottle of Yingling and
Absolutely the Yingling. It's incredible. I'm laughing at something in the chat. I know you won't get it.
it's the train, the model trains thing, right?
Yeah, Bobby Bacala talking about his son in the model trains. He don't care. Then he gets shot to death.
As Suit Williams correctly points out in a note of chat room, Miz and LA Knight was in a promotional match, so the brand split, does not.
That's my point. Like, they still believe in the brand split. Right. How do you have a job and a life and a healthy sex life with your wife and kids and a dog?
And you're like Raw superstars versus SmackDown superstars. Like,
1 minute you're getting the big promotion at work. You're throwing a stick to the fucking golden retriever in the backyard. You're getting your mail. You're paying all your bills on time. You're calling your mom on her birthday. Yet you still believe in the brand split.
Call them superstars.
You still believe in the brand split. It's confounding to me. Your hands are on your head because Jey Uso's coming to Raw.
It's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And I tell you what, Jey Uso really did come across like a star. He didn't at SummerSlam. SummerSlam was a fucking bomb for that man. That main event, he did not come across like a star. These people were like doing his fucking like his taunts and everything. Like, they were into this.
They loved it all because he does like the strut when he comes down to the ring thing. He sticks his legs out and bounces and says day one a lot. And they were all in. I don't know. I don't get it.
There were
just don't get it.
How many people were at this fucking show? 14,000 people, something like that.
13,014 were at the show.
14,000 of this guy excited about Jey
Day
Uso.
Day
still
one.
believing in the brand split.
Right.
Still believing in the brand split. Oh man, this company's got the magic.
Cody pulled off a miracle. He even said, like, I had to pull some strings because of my status in the company, and I did it to get Jey Uso to Raw. Okay.
Well, never mind the fact that Jey Uso orchestrated screwing Cody out of the title at WrestleMania.
Water under the bridge. It's fine.
Of course. Of course. I know when someone prevents me of completing the dream of my father, I forget about it in 3 months.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Z brings up a great point in the note of chat room. You're going to be that guy when he has a red T-shirt at Survivor Series. Just think about that, Joe. Jey Uso in a red shirt at Survivor Series. You'll be.
That's a good point.
You'll be.
Right, he's representing the red brand.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You'll see.
How many weeks before Jey Uso appears on SmackDown?
4. 4
Over
or 5.
under is 4.5.
4.5. I'm going to take the under. I'm going to take the under on that.
I'm going to take the under. Yeah. Man. Well,
here's the tag match that everybody liked that we're going to hate.
Yes.
So go ahead.
Yeah. Well, people are loving this tag. I got to tell you. I was bored out of my mind watching this tag.
Yeah, just contrived WWE weapons, kendo sticks, and
19 people running in, and it, basically 5 on. How many people are in the Judgment Day? 4 or 5?
You got Finn Balor, Dom, Damian Priest, Rhea, and then the final JD McDonough, who I don't know if he's an official member or just kind of a.
He
tag
showed up and got put through a table and whatever. So there's like 5 on 2. Just silly. And then you know where they lost me? You know where they lost me.
Was it
Owens
the barricade?
and Zayn emerging with the Penguins jerseys.
Oh yeah, for the cheap. Yeah, Mario Lemieux and Sidney Crosby. Yeah.
Kevin Stevens. Gross. Tom Barrasso. Yeah. Gross.
Yeah, it's so I
silly.
know. And for some people that like made the match for them, and God bless those people, but for me, I was just like, yeah, I'm out. I'm out. Yeah.
That fucking stinks. It's not as bad as Sue driving up in a minivan, but it's close. But
do you want the best? Do you want the best cage match review I found?
I would love the best.
All right. Do you have a basket or a receptacle nearby?
No.
Okay.
The answer is no.
All right. 10.0 from Felipe Talks Wrestling. Quote, finally, WWE did a good tribute to Terry Funk.
Oh, my God. I'm going to fucking punch the wall.
I told you to, I guess punch a wall. I suppose I should have, you can punch a wall, barf into a bag or a trash can or something. This was 1,000 times better than the SmackDown match that was, I guess, an homage to Terry Funk. I don't even know what they're talking about. With some insane spots and Kevin Owens being the MVP of the match, taking crazy bumps. I gave the Stadium Stampede 10 out of 10, and I thought the two matches were pretty similar. And even preferring the Stampede one, this was 7.5 stars at least, in my opinion. But then he gave it a 10, which is the highest rating you can give. So anyway.
Yeah, they did a Terry Funk tribute match on SmackDown. I don't even remember who was in it. And the crowd just chanted, "We want tables" the whole time.
Oh, yeah, just like Terry Funk would. Yeah, just like in all the Terry Funk matches where they just chanted, "We want tables" the entire time. Yeah.
But, basic, boring-ass WWE quote-unquote hardcore match that they did. No, look, I can understand why people liked this.
No, as I was watching it, I was like, I get why some people are going to like this, but they're hitting each other with kendo sticks, and I'm like, I don't care. I don't care.
I'm so over it.
And then Rhea puts him through the barricade, and I'm like, now I really don't care. Like, this is just every match I've seen. If you just joined this planet today and watched this match, then yes, maybe this was good. You just started watching wrestling yesterday, and this is the first match you saw, you'd probably think it was good. How could you watch all these WWE shows, all the ones that I know all these people do, and still enjoy this when it was every single plunder match you've ever seen from that company? Every single one is exactly the same.
Yeah, and again, I watched this after All Out. I just can't compare to the strap match or that Moxley match. So, I don't know. We just don't get this company.
No,
it's clear.
We've deviated greatly from this, but there are multiple people saying this is a Terry Funk tribute match. These people need to watch Terry Funk matches. I'm sorry.
Well, look at the history they're taught.
God damn it.
A lot of Sue defenders in the chat.
Yeah, don't rag on Sue. They don't like it.
I'm not backpedaling on that. Sue sucks. I'm so tired of Sue and her stupid minivan. Just come on. I don't care about any of these people's mothers. Okay? Not a single one of them. She could drive off a cliff for all I'm concerned. She should take that minivan right off a cliff.
Wow. Who's going to bake cookies for the AEW backstage roster?
Oh, yeah, okay. The character. I don't want the real Sue to drive off.
I see. I see. You don't want Sue Beretta. You want, she can still bake cookies for everybody.
I'm sure she's a lovely woman, but there's a lot of lovely people I don't want on my wrestling shows. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, gotcha. Just want to clarify, you don't want the actual Sue to drive off a cliff. That would
because you know how these people are. They're going to claim I want the woman to be dead. Rhea Ripley, Raquel Rodriguez, another nothing match.
Boring as fuck. Holy
why did this have to go 17 minutes? Why doesn't Rhea just beat her in
Lord,
4
was
minutes?
This boring. God.
Just dreadfully boring. Just awful. Can we just skip right through it?
Yeah. What do you say about this match?
I have nothing to add.
Happened at all.
I have nothing to add. Seth freaking Rollins defending the title against Shinsuke Nakamura. The story here was Shinsuke knows this man has a bad back.
I kind of like this story, by the way.
And he's going to target that back. And, freaking isn't very freaking these days. Mm-mm. He's more like he has to do the song because that's really what's over. The song is over more than he is. And the sing-along and all that. So he can't drop that. This was a 25-minute match. And, on minute 17, there was still 3,000 people going, oh, like in the catacombs of the arena. And then they go home and throw a stick to their golden retriever and pay their bills. And it's amazing.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
So
their golden doodle. Their fucking golden doodle. Give them a greenie to their golden doodle.
Yes. So, he's got to keep the song and everything, but he's more of like a humanized character now. He's like, yeah, I'm a guy with a family and a bad back and just trying to retain my fake title. My contrived, created title because Roman doesn't want to lose any of his.
That I, both out of character and in character, have addressed as being a fake title. But anyway.
Correct. So, and then Nakamura works over his back. And, the work in this match I enjoyed. I thought the work was good. I thought Nakamura was very focused in his attacks on Rollins' back. The problem with this match is it was dreadfully boring. That was the problem with this match. It never kicked into a next gear. And it was just kind of there, and it was like a, I don't know, 3.25 star match or something that was well worked and told the right story, but it was 25 minutes going on 25 days, and it was just boring.
Mm-hmm.
It had no juice. So I don't know. It didn't excite me. Nothing came from it. Rollins hits the curb stomp, pins the guy. We send everybody home. It felt like the crowd was waiting for something.
Yeah, they were waiting for that next gear, and then he just won, and then it was just over, and they were like, "Oh, yeah. All right, well."
And then in the post match, it felt like they were waiting. Like, is there an angle? Or it was no.
Go home. Go give that greenie to your golden doodle.
Go walk the dog, because
Right.
we're done here. We're done here at the PPG fucking arena, whatever it's called.
I think it's the PPG Paint Arena or Paints Arena or whatever.
PPG Paints Arena.
Yes. Sue Williams did the review for our website for some reason. I told him not to many times. I saw him this weekend several times, and I told him do not do that, and then he did it. So, great point in his last paragraph, and I wanted to read it word for word. Voicesofwrestling.com, by the way, for the review from Suit Williams says, quote, meanwhile, Rollins put on another world title match on pay-per-view that only ended up being good instead of great. For a guy who talks a ton about wanting to be a top guy and the best in the world, he never comes through at that level when given the opportunity. Tell me, what's Seth Rollins' match of the year contender? What's his resume compared to guys like Omega or Ospreay? Hell, how does his run as the babyface fighting champion compare to that of Orange Cassidy? You can talk all the talk, but when it comes to being the best wrestler in the world, Rollins rarely walks the walk.
Yeah, Rollins is his output is not the output of someone who's one of the best wrestlers in the world.
No, and people put him in that category or say that he could.
Here's the thing. The vast majority of the people putting him in that category aren't watching wrestling. They're watching this company.
Right.
And they're sprinkling in a little AEW. So that is the vast majority of the people who are putting him in that category. If you're watching worldwide wrestling and really watching it, his output now, could he be? Yeah, I think he could be.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe he could be.
I don't know. I think he's had plenty of opportunities to have those types of matches in this company.
Sure. And that, he's no lock if you put him in another environment, but he could be. But based on his output, you can't realistically put him in that conversation. The output just doesn't say that it's so. And I'm someone who loved the Cody series. Loved it. I thought those matches were all fantastic. But there's just not a ton of meat on the bones in terms of Seth Rollins' output. And, this match, while well worked and telling the right story and all of those things, and, I'll even say this much. I thought that the body part work in terms of the relation to the story was better in this match than Omega Takeshita. I thought Omega Takeshita got a little too, let's do some moves, and got away from Takeshita attacking the body parts.
I agree. That's what we said on Sunday too. It I knew what they were going for, and it just didn't. Yeah, it didn't quite.
It didn't feel like it enough to me. But at the same time, the other difference is Omega Takeshita was exciting and a legitimate great match despite the minor flaws. This wasn't exciting and wasn't anywhere near being a great match. This was kind of just there. It had no second gear. It barely had a first gear. Just, this whole show, this Payback show, really just felt like an episode of Raw or something.
Yeah, it was very sleepy. Yeah, and it's one of the phenomenons with modern WWE in a lot of ways is that the crowds go nuts for the entrances. We talked about this a couple weeks ago, and it continues to remain true. And I think the workers are working to that as well. Other than Trish and Becky, who I think work their asses off to make their match as good as possible. But most other people realize, like, you come out, you do your entrance, everybody cheers, everybody goes nuts, everybody sings the song, they say your catchphrase, and the bell rings, and the crowds don't care. They don't care. They do not care about the bell to bell. They're not invested in the matches themselves. I mean, the Owens and Zayn and Judgment Day one, the crowd was into that one, but that was being played for, kind of explicitly getting fan reactions, getting the table out when the fans chant about the tables, doing the jerseys, like doing all the bells and whistles to get the crowd invested. But how often was the crowd actually quite literally invested in who was going to win or lose that match for any? No, they really weren't. I mean, they just cared about, the idea that these guys were doing, cool things and doing cool stuff and pandered to them or whatever. But I don't know. It's just, it was a very sleepy pay-per-view. Once the entrances were done, bell rang, and it was just kind of like everybody working for 15 minutes and then getting out of there. And that, I don't know. It definitely, it was not easy to watch. I'll say that. It was a chore.
It wasn't the hardest slog ever, but with these pay-per-views, but it wasn't, man, because I think because neither one of us really liked the tag street fight deal, that really made it a particularly rough watch, because there were 3 or 4 matches. There were 4 matches on this show to me that were just basic ass, dull TV matches. The LA Knight thing, the Theory match, the women's title match, which, my God. And then the main event, which was an okay television main event. That was not a pay-per-view quality. No,
a perfectly, like you said, a perfectly well-worked match that everybody was waiting for, myself included. Like, all right, let's get into that high gear. And then it just ended. And that's, on Nakamura too. He's not a very good worker these days anyway, but I thought his offense was good. I thought the build was good. I liked a lot of it. And I was expecting, okay, here we go. Like, this is a big spot for Seth, and Nakamura hasn't had a whole lot of opportunities to have these sort of spots. So let's see what happens. And then they just had a very perfunctory 17-minute match, and then it was done. And I was like, oh, all right, well, cool. And like you said, everyone's like, all right, well, now what's next? And then the pay-per-view went off the air, and it's like, oh, go home. You're done.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Not a show I'll ever think about again.
No, God, no.
So,
no, I clicked out of the old Peacock and said, that was Payback 2023, and I'm going to talk about it in the show, and then I will never, ever, ever think about it ever again. So
the Vic Payback.
Yep.
The Vic Payback. That's that.
So we got about half an hour left in the show here. We'll do some quick hitter topics here before we go. The CM Punk termination stuff. Obviously, if you want to hear us break that down at length, we did that during our Instant Reaction Live for AEW All Out on Sunday. So the first hour or so of that Instant Reaction Live is pretty much all about the Punk situation at the time, termination, our thoughts on it. I have really nothing new to say that I didn't say on Sunday. I'm not sure if you did. We've had some new reports and stuff come out, but it's been a lot of junk, really. It's been mostly, I don't know. I'll mention some of them here, but has anything kind of changed for you since Sunday, or are we at the same place you were at then?
No, of course not. The only thing that has changed for me is there's a lot of people making fools of themselves. A lot of people in the wrestling media are really making absolute and utter fools of themselves. With some of their, and I'm not even talking about Cornette and the completely out of line and out of bounds intimations that Mega Parikh, I don't know if I'm pronouncing her last name correctly, but everyone knows what I'm talking about. And some of the intimations he's making regarding her, which are completely out of line,
awful, vile,
disgusting, and
absolutely vile.
Brian Last cannot publish that. I mean, but. Whatever. I'm not even talking about that. Cornette's a provocateur. We know that. He went too far there. But I'm talking about, even people that you would consider reasonable members of the wrestling media who are getting swept up in the CM Punk whack job conspiracy theories and such. And they're just embarrassing themselves is what's happening. And
a lot of ass showing. A lot of ass showing over this last week. A lot of ass
showing. And, I'm someone who probably has been more, I don't know if sympathetic is the right word, but more willing to see Punk's side on a lot of these issues than most other pundits. I mean, I've gotten a lot of heat from the extreme anti-Punk crowd for being too pro-Punk. I feel like I've just tried my best to go out of my way to be fair as possible when it comes to all of this since Brawl Out. And I really related to Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez when Dave said that at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, he'd probably been too lenient and too easy on Punk. I really related to that because in the interest of attempting to be super fair, I probably have been too. So with all of that said, I'm someone who has really tried hard to see things Punk's way. But there's still no disputing that he had to go.
Right.
And
I figured this is an open and shut case. I figured after everything that we even just the baseline of what we know, I figured at this point it would be an open and shut case and nobody would possibly have any thoughts about it. I honestly, for whatever reason on Sunday, thought that okay, even the most ardent fans have to say, you know what? Yeah, I get it. I get why this had to happen. This wasn't going to work and it had to end. And you know what? This is how it was always going to end anyway. So you know what? Whatever, it ended. And then this week happened. And I was like, oh my God, what is happening?
I think that if you're someone who genuinely believes that the media, whether it's Dave Meltzer or whoever else, because Sean Ross Sapp has gotten some of this too, but not to the extent that Dave has gotten it. Or Brian Alvarez, if you're someone who thinks that the media is the reason that CM Punk was fired and CM Punk is not the reason he was fired, and if you're someone who thinks that this was some vast conspiracy theory involving Tony Khan, the Young Bucks, Dave Meltzer,
the chief legal officer of the Jaguars,
chief legal officer to eradicate CM Punk from the company, I don't know if there's a polite way I can put it, but I feel like I think you're probably, it's hard for me to wrap around that you're not so dumb that you remember to breathe. I mean, you can't be more stupid if you truly, honestly believe any of those things. Now, if I suspect that the vast majority of the people who have those kinds of thoughts are just hardcore people who don't like the Young Bucks and don't like Tony Khan and don't like AEW and don't like Dave Meltzer. And no matter what news emerges, no matter what happens with any of these scenarios, they're going to find a way to present it in a way that's favorable to Punk, or more importantly, unfavorable to all those people I just named. And, those people should just be outright ignored for, being complete idiots. But it's the people in the wrestling media who have gotten swept up in some of this that is really disappointing to me. And it really changes the way I view a lot of these people. It honestly does. I mean, you can't.
There's been a lot of masks taken off this week as well. I said people showing their ass, and there's been a lot of like, okay, you're completely irrational about this thing for whatever reason. Like, why are you choosing this thing to get as passionate as you are, and as ridiculous as you are, and as conspiracy minded as you are? There's so, I could not believe some of the stuff that I was reading, and I want to name names, completely, but there was enough stuff this week that I was just like, what are you talking about? What world are you living in? Why are you thinking this?
Yeah, it's, we could rattle off specific examples. I don't even think it's worth it. I mean, some of these takes out there are just so completely off the grid of being anything within reality that it's just stunning to see what some of these people think. To think that CM Punk got any kind of raw deal at all, when the fact of the matter is, the last thing Tony Khan ever wanted to do was fire this guy. I mean, look at the lengths they went to keep him around and to try to make it something that was sustainable. And it just wasn't.
And accommodated him at every turn. You want Ace Steel back? Fine, we'll give Ace Steel back. You want your own show? Fine, we'll give you your own show. You want to be in control of that show? Fine, you can be in control of that show. You want certain talents on that show? Fine, you can have certain talents on that show. You don't want certain people at the show? Fine, you can't have certain people at the show. Like, these are so many accommodations. What the fuck? Like, nobody else would get this. It's and even that still wasn't enough. All that was still not enough.
Once you revert to everyone's lying and it's a conspiracy, I have to tune you out.
Right.
That's really what it comes down to. You sound like a lunatic. Dave Meltzer's a liar. All right, well, Dave Meltzer didn't fire the guy. Do you think Tony Khan is sitting back waiting for his observer to arrive so he can read what happened and then make a decision?
Yeah, what? CM Punk did what? Unbelievable. All right, well, that's it.
You know,
he puts down his paper observer and goes, oh, well, that's it. He still gets it in the mail, I'm sure. You know, and puts it down and goes, oh my God, I got to do this. I got to do this. I can't believe what I'm reading in this sheet of paper I have here.
So, yeah, I don't know. It's maybe if it were earlier in the show or another day, I'd have more passion.
I don't have the energy for it because I'm reading these things and I'm just like, you're all unhinged maniacs. And I'm not, I think it's like unbecoming to even waste my time arguing some of the points that are being made by some of those people. Because it's just
a lot
like
of ways. Yeah. I mean, it's.
And then it's like Tony Khan is such a baby and what a pussy. And he can't deal with a little bit of fighting and he can't deal with this. And then, yeah,
he literally did deal with a little bit of fighting.
A lot of fighting.
You know, the whole idea, this other thing too, where it's, you know, as EVPs, they need to be professional and meet with someone if they want to meet with them.
Yeah. Oh,
you know, the last.
that take. Yeah, that was Raj. We could mention that take. That take fucking sucked. So
there's a lot of people have had that take. You know, the last time that the EVPs met with him, he beat them up and threw chairs at them.
Right. He said, come to my locker room if you have a problem. So they came to his locker room, and then he threw chairs at them, and they all had a giant big fight.
They tried that once, and they got attacked. And, you know, by every account, including the accounts from Punk's side, they attacked first. So it's like, what are we doing here? And here's the other thing. Before anybody wants to talk about EVPs being professional and doing their jobs and meeting with people, let's set aside the fact that they've already been attacked by this man, or at minimum gotten a fight with the guy. You can't come at me with that until you could explain to me what the Bucks' job as EVPs entails. Do they normally deal with conflict resolution? Is that part of their job? Because if not, then that argument doesn't fly. I've worked for plenty of companies where there were tons of people with fancy titles who I had no business speaking with ever, because they didn't deal with my department, or, you know, and this idea that you should just be able to force a meeting with people in a company because they have a title is utter nonsense.
Just because you want to. Just because you want to. Hey, I want to talk to the CEO. If that CEO doesn't talk to me, that guy sucks. And it's like, well, that guy is not entitled to meet with you.
That sounds like it's coming from a bunch of mouth-breathing idiots who never worked with a company that had this kind of structure. That's what it sounds like.
That'd be me fighting with the CFO and saying, I demand the CEO talks to me. It's like, no.
Yeah. Well, first of all, you and the CFO would have been fired.
Right.
When you fought. Punk was lucky to still have his job. They all were. This idea that they had to meet with him because they're EVP. What does that even mean?
And they should lose their titles if they're not willing to meet with talent.
These are token titles that they were given at the beginning of the company to coax them to start the company and not go to WWE. You know, that's what those titles are. Those titles are token titles so that they're employees and not contractors, and they make more money than everyone else because the company was built around them. That's what that is. Now, if someone wants to prove to me that part of the Bucks' job as EVPs,
right? They punch, they get into the office and
human resources, and
they get the daily email digest of all the human resources issues that floated in the last week, and go, oh, Nick, can you believe this? We gotta handle this. Yeah.
You're just taking any angle to try to make Punk sympathetic here.
Right.
Let alone the fact that nobody knows the legalities of why all of these people were let back and what the circumstances were of all of these people brought back from suspension and not fired. It's very probable that there were agreements in place where these guys couldn't be in the same room. And every time Punk tried to meet, the Bucks lawyers would say no. Everyone agrees on that. And
there was the one attempt to float that the meeting was supposed to happen, but then very quickly that got floated that no. Punk thought the meeting should happen, but the Bucks never agreed to that meeting.
Well, okay. Well, here's the thing. Even if that's the truth, who cares?
Right.
What difference
They have
does it
no
make?
obligation to talk to this guy if they don't want to.
What difference does it make if the Bucks agreed and then changed their mind at the advice of their lawyer or whatever, came to their senses? I don't believe that that's true. I never heard that. I heard that Punk tried to meet with them and was rejected multiple times. And I heard about the meeting, the alleged meeting, where FTR was meeting with the Bucks to work out their program, and Punk wanted in on that. The justification being, Collision is my show, and these are two of my main eventers, and if we're discussing creative, I need to be in the room. And that was rejected. Those are the stories I heard. I never heard a story that they agreed to a meeting and then changed their minds. It could have happened. And I don't even think, like, that's... So what if it did? He attacked him with a chair. So I don't know.
The best part is a lot of those are always like qualified with like, if this was a normal workplace. And it's like, first off, he attacked people with a chair and fought his coworkers. Like,
they had a massive brawl, and none of the people got fired.
So it's not a normal. First
workplace.
off, it's not a normal workplace. So stop that immediately. It's not a normal workplace, and yeah, then it wasn't a normal workplace at any point after that. So stop, please. It's not.
And as for your Dave Scherers of the world,
dear God, that guy. People should just stop paying attention to that guy.
He's
something.
There's something wrong with him.
Yeah, something is actually wrong with that guy.
His whole take of, Punk Khan must be a pussy who's never been in a fight if he feared for his life.
Mm-hmm.
Two things. Number one, I've seen Dave Scherer in person many times going back 30 years. He's not exactly Vanderlei Silva. Okay, let me just put it that way. Okay, he's not someone who's been in a bevy of street fights. Okay, trust me. Number two, who the fuck are you to tell somebody whether they felt in danger or not?
Right. I was really uncomfortable by the amount of people saying like, oh, he thought that was uncomfortable. He should see what it's like to be here or do this or back in my day, sort of stuff. And it's like, you have unless you saw the fucking video footage, you have no idea what transpired, but enough transpired where he was able to float that to the legal team of AEW and everybody else in AEW, and they were able to say, we can fire this guy with cause. So I don't know. I wasn't in the room either, so I can't say, but it was enough for him to say that. And yeah, for the fact that this guy can come on the air and say, I felt threatened for my life, and I also did not think the production, I thought everybody else backstage, I thought all our workers did not belong in that atmosphere, or belong to be treated that way, or whatever exact wording was. But yeah, for people to shit on that and just go, oh my God, what a load of this guy. Like, I'm sorry, that sucks. I don't like that at all.
Yeah, and you know what? If Tony Khan's never been in a fight, good for him. Like, what kind of a put down is that?
Right. It's so weird. It came across so weird, this stuff.
Then you know what? He's lived a better life than me. I've been in a few. You know what I mean? It's like, it's if he's never experienced that. And again, you weren't there. You don't know what this guy, we don't know what the lunging was. Which Dave says is
putting it lightly,
a charitable description of what happened. What if he did put his hands on him? It's ridiculous. And I don't know. I think it just let these people make fools of themselves.
Right. Now you know who they are. They've shown themselves. Now you're aware of them, and now you can decide what to do with them in the future. If you like to continue to acknowledge them and read their stuff and listen to their stuff and follow them, knock yourself out. But now you know what they are.
I wish Punk. Look, I don't want it. I didn't want it. I wish Punk was around. I like when Punk's around.
That's one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. One of my favorite wrestlers. The reason this website exists is because of CM Punk.
But I mean, you can't delve into conspiracy stuff. That's where you lose me.
Yeah. And this is the guy, like, you know what I mean? Like, this guy, he wouldn't piss on you if you were on fire, man. This is the guy you're going to spend all weekend defending.
Listen,
neither party would. Neither party gives a shit about you. And you're going to spend all weekend defending the if you're on a Buck side too, it's like, Jesus Christ, these are professional wrestlers. They don't give a fuck about you. Wasting all your fucking weekend.
My philosophies for pro wrestling line up with Punk's. I think it'd be a better company if he was making some of the creative decisions and those sorts of things. But with all of that said, this was untenable. We've been saying that all along.
Right. It was going to explode and erupt at a certain point, and it did, and
unavoidable.
It did in a spectacular fashion.
Unavoidable. And if it wasn't Jack Perry that night, it may have been the Bucks. I think that prevented an incident, possibly.
Yeah, probably a couple hours later, probably would have happened. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm sure there'll be some lawsuits and everything else, but the way that AEW has crossed their T's and dot their I's legally, I'm sure they've done everything they can to protect themselves. Obviously, the cons can afford the best lawyers money can buy.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know if I'd want to get into a lawsuit. Last time Punk got related to a lawsuit with a company that has more money than him, he ended up pretty financially not secure. So, yeah, I don't know if maybe...
he won the case.
Yeah, but it still, it ruined a friendship and led to a lot of stress. So, I don't know.
Fallout.
I don't know if he wants to do that again. But
and they seem to have been very prudent legally every step of the way, knowing that obviously lawsuits are going to be a possibility here. But I'm sure he signed documentation saying that any kind of physical, that's speculation, but I think it's fair speculation. So I don't know. A lot of people have really lost the plot on this one, and I think it really is based on emotion and not intellect. I think that's where a lot of these takes are coming from. They're coming from an emotional place.
And there's a lot of people that are doing the oh, well, that's 100% Punk's fault, right? And very few people are saying that. The people that are saying it's 100% anyone's fault.
You've got your hardcore anti-Punk people who, if you say anything that, forget something positive about Punk. If you're not 100% negative on Punk, they get on your case. I've had it happen to me. So, but yes, your point though,
it's causing these people to then say like, oh, it's actually okay that he tried to beat up his boss because sometimes it's the Bucks' fault too, and it's like, oh, Jesus Christ, what are you doing?
What dots are you connecting here?
Yeah, what are you doing?
These are some leaps you're taking.
Right, like, oh, it's all 100% Punk's fault, right? He can't even grab his, boss, and
they won't even meet with him. So no, that doesn't justify his other actions.
Right. These so-called EVPs won't even meet with him, so of course he's going to lash out. Okay. You still can't lash out. I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, you can't do that at any job. Sorry.
Yeah.
But, so there you go. Some of the fun scoops and stuff that came out, those close to Punk said that he was open to leaving AEW in December of 2022 to go back to WWE. But little problem, we don't know whether AEW would let him do that or if WWE wanted to bring him back. So that was a problem there. Dave Meltzer said that Fox did want Punk back proper when they signed him up for that WWE Backstage thing, but that Vince McMahon nixed that idea, so he just stayed on WWE Backstage for the short amount of time that he was on there. Punk also wanted to appear at the Royal Rumble. He wanted to be eliminated by Kevin Owens and set up a WrestleMania match between Kevin Owens. The one problem, I don't think Kevin Owens wants to do that.
Okay, can I just say that's an extremely old story. I don't know how that got unearthed or why that was.
Because now we're just we're searching for anything. We're just searching for any fucking Punk thing we can find.
It's just that was such old news. I mean, I don't remember if we talked about it, but during the first suspension or whatever, that was floated. And it never really got passed, and it was never seriously considered.
Right. He probably thought it was a great idea, but I don't know if anybody else involved in the situation thought it was a great idea.
Khan was just going to roll out a red carpet to fucking.
Oh, you want to go with the Rumble? Yeah, sure. Go to the Rumble
and say, no. I mean that and that's an old story anyway. I don't understand why or how that one got unearthed.
So that was a long shot that was going to happen at the Royal Rumble. Speaking of long shots, new NWA World Heavyweight Champion EC3 said Punk would be a, quote, game changer for the National Wrestling Alliance.
You know what?
I think he's right.
The Overman isn't wrong. I mean, of course he would be.
He is right. PW Insider reported, I love that this was an actual story, quote, there is excitement within Impact Wrestling at the possibility of Punk working there.
You know what? Even after all this, he'll never do it. But if he would do it, of course you bring him in.
Absolutely. If I'm any indie, and there was I don't know what this indie was. It's in our Discord, but some podunk indie. I think it was some some Southern Wrestling indie, I don't even know what it was like, we've extended an open invitation to CM Punk to show up at our show this Sunday. Or whatever. I love that. That's old school Carney shit. Impact saying, yes, we would love to have Punk come to Impact, and PW Insider reporting, Impact Wrestling would really like Punk to come. Like, I love that shit. And EC3, everybody should do this. Every indie in the world should say, we would love to have CM Punk come and wrestle for us, because they would and they should. So, but yes, you see, the Overman is right. CM Punk would be a game changer for the National Wrestling Alliance. And yes, I indeed think that there's hey, you know what? Bound for Glory is in October in Chicago, Joe. He was there at the last. He was at the last Impact show backstage.
He did visit Impact's locker room.
Just saying.
In fact, he did. That is, So who knows?
So was Mercedes. I don't know if she's showing up, but you never say never. Never say never. Ace Steel is gone, by the way. He was released by AEW today. PW Insider said the plan was for Steel to work as Punk's coach/producer, but when it came time for AEW Collision to be announced, the company made the decision that Steel would not be allowed to physically work on site at the tapings. This, of course, caused a much publicized delay in Punk's return being formally announced and advertised. And then the two sides agreed that Steel could work remotely via Zoom calls. They also note that, quote, there had been talk over the last month that AEW was looking into a space in Florida for Steel to train and work with talents, but that obviously will not come to pass. The retread of the Steel Dominion in Florida here, so did not come to pass, unfortunately.
Well, if your job is specifically to produce segments for CM Punk and CM Punk no longer works for the company, then it would seem as though, as our European friends would say, you are redundant.
Yes, so that is the end.
You need to go. I will say that for those saying Tony Khan has poor leadership skills for the way he has handled CM Punk, that is in fact correct. But
I agree.
It is not correct in the way that these people think it is. These people think it's poor leadership that he fired CM Punk and didn't force the meetings and all of those things. The poor leadership came in the form of bending over too far backwards to acquiesce this man and
accommodating him at every step and never solving any of the issues. Never solving any of the issues. And that applies to the elite too. Never getting those guys in a room and saying, fucking figure this shit out. All right. We're not leaving this room until you guys figure it out. You know what? And if you can't figure it out, then we're done here. You know what I mean? Like then it has to end. One side has to go. We can't keep doing this. But just thinking that, hey, we just put them on separate shows, it'll never be a problem. It didn't. Yeah, that whole idea that it was never going to work, and we knew it wasn't going to work, and it of course did not work. So yeah, that was poor leadership. Finally stepping up. This is the best sign of leadership from Tony Khan, saying, you know what, enough of this shit. I'm done with this. You go. Yeah. I'm done with this. I'm over it. I don't care how much money you're going to make me. I don't care how many tickets you're going to sell. I don't care how many pay-per-views you're going to sell. I'm done with it. I can't live in. We can't have this workplace. I can't have my employees be in this workplace. You got to go. Bye. That's the first major, and to do it in Chicago and to go out in front of people and say, I'm doing this in front of Chicago, that was the sign of great leadership by Tony Khan. I think there's been a lot of bad leadership from him. This was great leadership this weekend. So yeah, you got your whole story reversed, people. If this is the sign of bad leadership for
reverse. You, yeah, the poor leadership in regards to Punk wasn't that Tony Khan was too unfair or too hard on Punk. It was that Tony Khan was too lenient and too easy on CM Punk. That was the poor leadership in regards to Punk. Quite honestly, there's no other take on this one.
Really, no.
That's just, no, yeah. You can't reasonably have another take in regards to that. It was absolute. We buried Khan for the poor leadership.
Of course.
Go back and listen.
Wrote a whole fucking article about it. Yeah, I wrote a whole fucking article about it.
Yeah, you wrote the article, and it was the show either last week or 2 weeks ago, maybe. I guess it was, or 3 weeks ago. We buried Khan under the earth for being soft and being a poor leader, but not in the ways that these people think he was a poor leader. And again, this is all rooted in emotion and childlike hatred of a tag team you don't like. That's what the vast majority of this is rooted in. Let's be honest about it. You're mad because you don't like the Super Kick Party. And you're taking an emotional, this is a lack of emotional and intellectual maturity from a lot of these people is exactly what it is.
All right. Real quickly before we depart here, a couple more minutes left. Collision number did not do well. Also, hey, they let go of CM Punk and then the collision number tanked. Unbelievable. I'm sure these two things are absolutely related. The first in a series of increasingly difficult weekends for Collision. We all knew about this. We said on the show, strap in, it's coming, be an adult. Think about this rationally because there's going to be a lot of people that are going to use this to go, oh my God, look at this. But Saturday's show was the lowest in the show's 12-week history, which, makes sense. It averaged a series low 345,000 viewers and a 0.11 in the 18 to 49 demo. That is per WrestleNomics for both of those. The show was, of course, up against Payback and college football games on ABC, CBS, NBC, plus MLB games on Fox. So, yeah, it had big drops. And we knew it was coming. And it was stark.
And they're going,
and it was obvious, but yeah.
Yeah. They're going head to head with Texas, Alabama this week.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to do like a 0.09. I mean, because that's gonna be one of the biggest games they go against. Texas, Alabama. Doesn't get much bigger than that. It may not get bigger than that. They finished behind something like 26 games or something like that this past week. It's not only one big game that can hurt them. It's the fact that there's like 7 games on while Collision is on. So it's like death by 1,000 cuts. Even if there's not one big, huge game that's going to pop a huge number. And I guess this week it was Penn State, West Virginia that was the big game in that window. But there's like 7 or 8 games on across the dial, splitting that college football audience, which cumulatively is going to hurt Collision every week, just like we all suspected it would. And Payback was this past week as well. And as we've seen, the WWE pay-per-views hurt Collision as well. But Texas, Alabama this week is gonna be bad news for Collision.
Yeah, it's not going to go well, and yeah, just strap in because it's going to continue to happen, and people that don't understand why Collision exists or understand what ratings. You cannot look at this show the way that you look at traditional professional wrestling, ratings. You just can't. You cannot look at it like it is on Wednesday or on Mondays or
on Tuesday night or something.
Right. You can't. It's not. It's designed to give Turner. It's designed to have Turner not take an absolute bath 52 times a year on Saturdays. Now it's going to take a bath a couple times a year, several times a year, in fact. But they're playing it for the summer that we just saw. They're playing it for the end of the NFL season. They're playing it for, hell, even during the NFL season or during the college football season, saying, you know what? 0.11, better than what we had for, whatever Star Wars movie we were going to play again. You know what I mean? Like that, it's for that. It's to keep that up and keep that momentum going throughout the rest of the year. And then, peak when there's not football on, not college football on, not major MLB games, not, major NBA games. Like they're going to battle a lot of stuff. Saturday nights is a very competitive sports night. So yeah, anybody trying to, oh my God, here we go. They fire Punk and now it's all downhill. It's like, oh my God, we knew this was going to happen.
Nonsense.
Yeah.
Here's, are you ready for this? Here is what's head to head with Collision this week. And this is just college football. Wisconsin, Washington State on ABC. UCLA, San Diego State on CBS. Charlotte at Maryland on NBC. Oregon at Texas Tech on Fox. By the way, that's all 4 major networks.
Oh, yeah.
Texas at Alabama on ESPN.
You're fucked.
McNeese State at Florida on ESPN.
I don't know if that one's going to do that.
Texas at Alabama, the Pat McAfee second screen experience on ESPN2. Central Florida at Boise State on FS1, Arizona at Mississippi State on SEC Network, Eastern Michigan at Minnesota on Big Ten Network, Temple at Rutgers on Big Ten Network alternate channel, Southern Miss at Florida State on ACC Network, UC Davis at Oregon State on the Pac-12 Network, Cincinnati at Pitt on the CW, all 5 networks.
Oh, CW too. God damn it.
Houston at Rice on NFL Network, Air Force at Sam Houston State on CBS Sportsnet, and then 4 games on ESPN Plus streaming. This is what they're going up against every Saturday for the rest of the fall, and that's just college football. That doesn't include
MLB playoffs are coming very soon.
UFC, as you just noted, MLB playoffs, WWE pay-per-views. So, again, even if there's not a big college game, collectively, there's millions of people watching those 12 games that I just laid out or whatever it is. So here's what you keep your eye on. Does Tony Khan lose interest in Collision because no one's watching?
Right.
That's the thing to keep your eye on. I don't think he will. I think you just keep your head down and produce a good show every week and know you're going to get slaughtered. But you have to consider, because AEW has a history of losing interest in their non-Dynamite shows. We've seen it with every single show they've ever produced. Eventually it becomes something other than what it started as because they lose interest in it. You go right down the line. So that's the thing I think you keep your eye on. You don't get wrapped up in the numbers.
Right.
There's going to be weeks that this show does like a 0.07.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, but once you stop seeing Danielson and you stop seeing the Bucks and you never see Moxley, like now, especially now that the Punk thing is over, that'll be the real tell. Is look at the stars. Look who's on this show. You know, once it starts not having those guys, like, because it looks like Danielson's going to be a big part of the show moving forward a lot. You know, once he's gone, then once FTR are gone and they're not there every single week or whatever, then you'll know that they have. But I don't know. We'll see.
The problem is they still have to sell tickets to it.
Right.
You know, that might be what saves it from them losing interest in producing a big-time show.
Right. Rampage, you just throw at the end of Dynamite. Hey, these people are fucking around, staying around anyway, or they're coming early to the show. Fine, we'll just tape. Yeah, but you got to sell tickets to this Collision stuff. So.
Yeah.
And they need a little work in the ticket selling department for sure in AEW right now. That is the more thing. People will point at ratings because they don't want to do the work on ticket sales or whatever. That is the more damning thing. They got like less than 2,000 people for Cincinnati next week, I think, for Dynamite so far, which is...
The domestic ticket sales are a massive problem and something to keep your eye on. And
those upper decks, I'll tell you, Indianapolis, upper deck closed off again.
Well, it's... people are saying that they're telling stories on the TV now, and we're all super pleased with that. All right, when's that gonna? It's got to translate at some point.
Sometimes
you
got to make business.
Were selling more. They were selling
tickets.
more tickets when they were allegedly not telling stories.
Right. When they were wrestling and having good
tickets.
matches and stuff, that was selling tickets. But now they're
when they were allegedly not telling stories, they were selling more tickets than now when they're telling stories, and they've been telling these stories since the spring. These wrought stories of that. Here's one. I have a friend who is a member of one of these seat filler / ticket giveaway sites that it's predominantly centered around Broadway shows. Will give away tickets either for free just to have the seats filled or super on the cheap, but occasionally sports and stuff like wrestling will sneak onto the site. He was able to buy a ticket to Grand Slam today for $5 because AEW Grand Slam is now an offered event on the seat filler site. So, they know Grand Slam is struggling and they're essentially giving away the tickets at this point because Grand Slam is struggling and the tickets aren't moving. It's still in the 5,000s, I think. So, 2 years ago, instant sellout. Last year at this point, they were at what? 9,000-10,000 out. This year they're at like 5,000 or 5,500 out, and now they've got those tickets up on the seat filler sites.
Yeah. The Wrestle Dream. I don't know if you saw that as well. WrestleTix pointed this out a couple hours ago, actually. Actually, right when we got on the air here. Pre-sale update for the AEW Wrestle Dream. This is from WrestleTix, patreon.com/WrestleTix. They sold 2,616 tickets for that show so far in their pre-sale. But
that's in like 3 weeks.
Yeah. That's October 1st. Current setup for that is 6,302, and that's in the Climate Pledge Arena in Seattle, which holds more than 6,000. So they are already they're cutting off a large chunk of that building to do just the 6,000 or whatever, and they only distributed 2,616 for their pre-sale. So
they don't anticipate putting close to 5 figures in that building.
No.
It's not an established pay-per-view brand for them yet, and people have not responded to it, is basically what the bottom line is.
Yeah.
They also haven't done anything to build it yet on TV, because right now they're building Grand Slam.
Mm-hmm.
with this tournament and everything, and Samoa Joe and Roddy Strong and all this shit. And so that's going to give them a little 2-week window to build the pay-per-view. What's the date on Grand Slam? It's
Grand Slam
20th?
is the I believe you're right, the 20th.
Yeah, because next
20 or
week's the final
27. It's either 20. I think it's 20th. I think it's the 20th.
Yeah, so that gives them a week and a half to build the Seattle pay-per-view.
Yeah.
And again, sell the tickets. Sell some tickets to it. But, I could see why people wouldn't be in a rush to buy those tickets. They're like, what is Wrestle Dream? What is this? It's, it doesn't have the brand recognition of Full Gear or any of the pay-per-views that they do every year. Revolution, you know them all. So it's like, people are like, I don't know what the fuck this is. And I don't know how good of a market the Pacific Northwest is for them. How often do they go there? I don't even know last in their Pacific Northwest.
Guess we're finding out not that good so far.
Well, listen.
There's not a lot of good markets for them right now. The UK,
this
for Wembley, that was good.
This MJF Adam Cole grab ass story, it's red hot, Rich. It's fucking red hot.
Listen to that crowd. Listen to those crowd during these promos. Come on.
Yeah, the crowd is hot. I'm not even being fucking a wise guy. It's red hot in the buildings. But I don't know. It's certainly not reflecting yet in the tickets, and maybe it will. I feel like we've had these discussions before about something else, but I can't put my finger on what that story was. Which one was that? It's the Bloodline, Rich. Bloodline. The thing that this isn't anything like. A lot of people.
Real quickly before we depart here, UFC WWE merger dates. By the time we talk next week, WWE will be a brand new company. They will be a part of TKO Group Holdings and publicly traded under the symbol TKO because Endeavor, who owns UFC, and World Wrestling Entertainment are going to merge on September 12th, 2023. Vince McMahon, Endeavor CEO Ari Emanuel, and WWE CEO Nick Khan are all part of the new board of directors. We talked about that when the news came. There's still one board seat available, presumably to be held by a member of the WWE staff, but that has not been filled yet. And WWE head of creative Paul Levesque and UFC president Dana White are not on the new board, but will maintain their roles. So one seat left on the board. Hey, what's Stephanie McMahon up to? She seems like she's been pretty available lately, right? I think she's
I don't
know. It's weird.
The name I haven't heard in a long time.
Yeah. It's strange. What happened to she? Public face of this company for a decade, and she went away.
Well,
but then her husband is still there all the time. And he does press conferences, and then anyway, TKO Holdings. You gonna buy stock in TKO Holdings, Joe?
I will not. The thing to look at with that is, are they going to cut the roster in a similar fashion that they did with UFC?
Right.
That's the thing to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
I had one wrestler. I was having a discussion with a wrestler today about all of this stuff and when's the ideal time to be a free agent and all this. And my answer, they were looking for advice because they don't really follow the business end of wrestling. And my answer was, look, no one knows how this merger is going to shake out. So it's hard to say what the prospects are going to look like for free agent wrestlers. The merger goes through in a couple of days, and then we're going to see how Endeavor handles the talent budget.
Right. I wouldn't do any
WWE.
moves right now if I were you. I would stay put wherever you're at right now and see what happens by next week. Because it might happen immediately. It might happen over time, but I think we'll have a much, much, much better idea by next week and by the end of this month. What this company is doing.
WWE hasn't really signed anyone except Brian Pillman Jr., and that was a developmental deal, and that's a different animal.
Right.
And it's I don't know if there's a hiring freeze necessarily, but it's certainly a wait and see kind of thing. And then we see how Endeavor handles the roster and the roster budget, and the landscape for free agent wrestlers can change drastically if WWE is no longer in the game of really caring about anyone other than the super tippy top stars, which has been the UFC model, right?
Right.
From what I understand. So even guys who were champions and what in pro wrestling vernacular would be upper mid carders or part-time main eventers, they've let them walk. They've let those level guys walk, and they don't care about anyone below the tippy top level. And there is a possibility that they handle the wrestling side the same way.
Oh, absolutely. Well, Nick and Vince were handling the wrestling side like that for years. And then the Vince thing happened, and I think, either to give Paul, his toys back or to, kind of gain, goodwill back from a lot of people. A lot of those people were brought back over the last, year or so with Triple H coming back into power and doing that sort of stuff. But we saw Nick and Vince do that. Every quarter call would come and they'd say, yeah, we got to get rid of all these people. All right, here you go. Here's a list of people. Get rid of them.
Yeah.
Those guys are now in charge. Those guys are in charge. Paul's the head of creative. That's good. But now he's got a board of directors that has no, half that board of directors doesn't give a fuck about your plans for, wrestler X or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, they don't care. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. I don't know. We will know. I think we're going to find out very, very quickly next week what the landscape's going to be.
Was this the last wave of free agents that could play both sides against each other? Was it the elite and whoever else signed recent deals? Was that it? I don't know. We don't know. So if WWE gets super conservative with their roster budget, then AEW doesn't have to be as aggressive in the offers they make people. If there's no one, because then we're back to a situation where you don't have anyone to negotiate off of.
Right.
So it's going to be that, to me, that's the most interesting aspect of the merger, because the wrestlers whose contracts have come due over the last 4 years have really been in the driver's seat and have made a lot of money.
That's the best part about AEW. It's why every wrestler in the world, we talked about it when AEW first got announced. I literally used the term, I used Mojo Rawley should be jumping up and down at this, and then he got a fucking massive deal to stay there. And obviously they then fired him because their contracts don't really mean anything. But those guys so many people. Your lowest of the low, your highest of the high, it did not matter. Everybody was going to benefit by AEW existing. Because now you can play, I just go over to there. I got this offer here. I mean, it's the easiest thing in the world to do, and that might be done. Who knows? So I don't know.
Yeah, it's all the great unknown. Yeah,
it's a new business. I think a lot of people aren't quite ready for this, but they're a new company after this. In a couple of days, they're a brand new company.
And look, they may view the wrestling side different than the UFC side.
Sure. Or the WWE guys fight harder, where maybe Dana was like, yeah, fuck it. I don't know. I don't need these guys. Fuck them. Fire them all. I don't give a shit.
I don't care. This guy's a pain in my ass anyway.
Yeah, right. Where Ari Emanuel's like, we got his budget. And he's like, fine. Fire these 20 guys. I don't need them. Get rid of them. WWE guys might fight for them a little harder. Now, I don't think Nick Khan, judging by his past, I don't think the WWE CEO Nick Khan or the new whatever Vince McMahon's title is. I forgot what his title was. I don't think he's going to fight super hard for those guys, but I don't know. We'll see.
At the bottom line, it's not Vince and Paul. Ultimately, they have to answer to someone else now.
Right.
So,
It'll be fascinating, and we'll talk about it next week. All right, that is it for us on the Flagship. Make sure you subscribe to our Patreon, patreon.com/Voices of Wrestling, voicesofwrestling.com/Patreon, or flagshippatreon.com for the NFL Intelligentsia, for the Freedom of Choice AWF series, for all of our bonus audio, for the instant reaction live of AEW All Out, which we went about 3 hours talking about the CM Punk situation and reviewing All Out. That is all available on our Patreon, $5 tier or $10 tier to unlock every single bit of audio and written content that we do. We also have a Discord, voicesofwrestling.com/Discord. Make sure you join that. And make sure you subscribe to us on your podcast app of choice. Subscribe to us on YouTube, all that other good stuff. As we always say for the live listeners, if you want more wrestling content, the Mike and JD show is streaming right now. So when we go off the air, you can stick with the Voice of Wrestling YouTube channel and just go on right now and listen to the Mike and JD show as well. But that is it for us. That is Joe. I'm Rich. We'll talk to you next time. Take care. Bye.
Cheering at pro wrestling shows in Japan is back, and 2023 is already shaping up to be a big year in the history of pro res. That's why you should listen to the Emerald Flow Show. From the Royal Road to the Green Mat, Paul and Gerard take you into the world of All Japan Pro Wrestling and Pro Wrestling Noah. Not only do we analyze events, but we examine business, who is getting over, what angles are working or not. Occasionally, we take a look at other Japanese promotions like DDT and 01. So if you're looking for more coverage of the world of Japanese wrestling, check out the Emerald Flow Show on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network, available on all of your favorite podcast apps.
Hello, Voices of Wrestling listener. Dave Ryan here. Have you ever wondered to yourself how many hidden gems are hidden away inside the last years of World Championship Wrestling? Have you ever asked yourself how many tenuous gags can be made about the name Mike Enos? And have you ever thought about what it sounds like for two Irishmen to interpret a very chaotic company through its B-show? The answers to all this and more are just a click away. Check out Days of Thunder every second Thursday on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network.